Get your own bit. Get your own material.
No, it's a funny bit.
It was funny, so I'm gonna do it too.
Cole baited Jay into saying Baba Booey right when the podcast started.
Mark
What an
Rumble Weebs,
idiot.
my name's
Oh,
Cole. His name is Jay. His name. Oh no! No!
No! He's done it! 165 episodes in, and he finally did it.
Cue Cole restarting the episode.
My name is Cole. That guy who wouldn't be quiet during the introduction, his name's Mike, and that other guy's Jay. We like anime, and this is episode 165 of AniPro. I've had a pretty good streak, so to be honest.
Yeah.
Honestly, I
I mean, hey,
don't know how you do it.
164 out of 165 is pretty damn good.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. And on this week's episode, we are reviewing the classic animation television program, Serial Experiments Lain. Look forward to that.
Even.
I think that'll be a very exciting review. We're also going to talk about the Switch 2 being announced. We're also going to talk about, I don't know, Lost Media, stuff like that. I watched a YouTube video about Lost Media, and it was kind of connected to
He
Lain.
put me and Jay in the chair for it, too. So
Yeah,
we
it
have to
was
talk about it.
interesting. Yeah, it's interesting. But before we get into any of that, it has been, honestly, probably many
Someone's entire life.
Many
moons.
weeks.
Many moons since I've spoken to you both. Mike was away. Jay was out in the mountains chopping down trees.
Yeah,
I
wearing flannel.
Yeah, I was off the
And
grid.
jeans and denim.
Yeah, Jay was trying to escape Lain off the grid.
Yeah.
So let's start with Jay. How did your how's your 2 weeks been?
Yeah, it's been pretty good. Obviously we got a pretty cool announcement that we'll be talking about later today, but in between then I started reading a little bit of manga. I've been reading Pandora Hearts.
Ooh,
Okay.
Not sure
What's
not sure if either of you have read it or watched the anime. It's a pretty neat kind of like Alice in Wonderland supernatural-esque thing. Where about this guy that like gets sent to Pandora, which is basically like Wonderland, but like a dark and gritty
Not
version
like
of it.
Not like the planet of Pandora from Avatar.
It sounds interesting, actually. I'm reading the description here. It does sound interesting.
yeah,
There's an anime
yeah.
of it too, as well. Came out in
There
2009.
is. I've heard the anime is like very mid 2000s adaptation where like it just kind of butchers it a little bit and doesn't do it justice. And then it never got its brotherhood, so
I see.
yeah.
But with a
You
guy
can do it,
named
Jay.
with a guy named Xerxes Break, how can you go wrong?
How could you go
yeah.
wrong? Jay, you can develop this anime.
Yeah,
I
there you
could.
go.
Yeah,
I could.
You could be the producer.
I just need to learn how to draw.
Well, I
Well,
mean, you hire
Be a
people for that.
director. You're a director.
Yeah, I
Director,
guess I could.
producer,
Yeah.
writer.
Yeah. True.
Big dog,
but
big cheese.
yeah, I'm reading a bit of that. I'm 2 volumes into it at this point.
Okay.
And it's pretty good so far. It's by the same author as The Case Study of Vanitas,
Ooh, okay.
which, if you like that, they're similar in the fact that they're both supernatural, and like they've kind of both got those mystery vibes to them. But this one obviously a bit more fairy tale-esque. Not fairy tale like the anime, but like fairy tale, like Grimm's fairy tales.
Right.
Yeah.
'Cause
I think you said something about it being like semi-tied to like Alice in Wonderland or something like that. Did I hear
kind
that?
of like there's characters like Alice and Tweedledee and Tweedledum and the Mad Hatter and like
It's a
the
little
Rabbit.
fantastical. Yeah.
Little-
Seems
little
like it seems
fantastical.
like it's pretty. It's aping quite a bit from Alice in Wonderland.
Yeah.
If it's got all
Yeah.
these character names, at least
Yeah.
homaging, like
like
referencing.
They're more referential than they are like actually like these characters because they've got their own spins on them and
Yeah.
other things are going on. But it is pretty good. I would recommend it. I just think that like a lot of people that have read it have like said it's like one of the best manga they've ever read. And like I don't think it's super good, but I think it's still worth a read, if that makes
Okay.
sense.
Yeah,
So-
that checks out.
But you know what else is worth a read?
The
Reading
name
into what-
Xerxes Break.
Well, yes, that, but also reading into whatever is going on with Mike in his Wonderland.
Oh
Yes.
boy. Oh dearie me. In my Wonderland, I've actually come back to the winter Wonderland because I just spent the last week of my life in sunny,
Cute.
beautiful, wonderful Mazatlan, Mexico.
Ah.
Buenos dias.
Boo.
What I would say if I was still there, but I'm not.
And ladies and gentlemen, he's come back as pale as ever. Somehow.
I know. Cole said to me, he's like, yeah, I expected you to be more tanned when I hop onto
I
a
think you're
recording.
whiter than you were when you
Possibly, honestly, possibly, because the first thing Mike said to me after I said that, I was like,
Yeah.
sunscreen.
Mhm.
I'm like, oh yeah, but you don't wear
Yeah.
sunscreen here.
I do.
So, yeah,
I do.
Oh,
I
but
put
I
a
mean,
little
like,
bit.
I wear
about-
like SPF like 800.
We wear SPF 60. I don't dip below 60 because I'm a pale boy. I do I do burn quite easily actually. If you, I do
Yeah.
have a bit of a burn going on.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
but I managed to keep it under wraps. The only day I got burned was really bad. Like for the most part, I was at an all inclusive resort, right? So you're kind of trapped there. You don't you can easily manage on the sunscreen. Like, you know, like
Right.
you remember to
Yeah.
reapply because you're kind of bored. You're kind of just hanging out anyway, right? But
Yeah.
the day where everything went wrong was
Mm.
we paid for a an excursion where we went deep sea fishing.
Mm.
Ah,
So what essentially happened with the deep sea fishing was, here, gringo, get on the boat and
can you say that?
I don't know.
Okay. Anyway,
I think it means tourist.
I think it's okay. I think it's
Yeah,
fine.
I'm pretty sure.
I'll
If
do the
not,
research
I
for
apologize. I didn't know. And basically, we got on the boat and we went out to sea, and then we came right back, and the sun's shining on you the entire time, and you really cannot escape from it. So, and I didn't want to bring our sunscreen with me because I would be literally taking my infant baby's sunscreen away from her.
Mm-hmm.
So I did not get a chance to reapply in that scenario.
You didn't bring the baby on the boat.
I did not bring the 6-month-old baby on the boat in the middle of the ocean. No.
Just
Did see
chime it
whales.
in
Did
with-
see dolphins, though.
Oh.
That's pretty cool.
Jay's got a report
Jay's got-
on
Jay,
if,
I
if
wanna
the,
hear
chime it
if the
in.
term gringo is fine.
Yeah.
The term is often
Over to
used in
Jay.
a disparaging or offensive way.
Towards
Towards a foreigner in Latin America or Spain, particularly one who is from the United States or Britain.
So I would be. I think I've been. It's kind of like if I am one of them, I can say it. I think in this case.
I am a part of that
Yeah.
crew.
I am a part of that
Um,
demographic. You are not from the
yeah.
United States, though. You're from Canada.
Yeah, we're
Yeah.
kind of. This is going to
51st
be.
state.
Ooh, I was just
no.
thinking this. I was just thinking the same thing, Cole. I'm like, how do I dance around
just
that
say
we're
it. You
currently
just say
trying
it.
to be annexed? Yeah, you're right.
You
Yeah.
just say it.
Yeah,
You
we would
just
not
say
make a very good 51st state. We're the reason the Geneva Convention was invented. So let's not do that.
Yeah. I was going
Anyway,
to ask
yeah.
though, Mike, did you
Yeah.
catch anything on your fishing excursion?
You know what we caught? Nothing.
Good
It was just a
times?
very expensive boat ride at the end of the day. So yeah, that was good.
Didn't even get like a boot or anything. Like the
No, we
classic, like,
literally
I pulled a boot.
quite literally caught nothing. And I think I honestly kind of think a little bit like I think it's like a bad time of year to go because I asked the boat driver at one point, the captain. I
boatman.
said, yeah, the boatman, the oarsman. I asked him,
Row the boat thrower.
is this like normal for this time of year? Like, is this like a really slow day like for you? And he kind of had this like smirk that to me said, yeah, we knew you weren't catching nothing. Thanks for the $1,000, buddy.
You caught some
Yeah.
rays.
We caught some rays. We had some good conversations. We ate bread and cheese like
Do you have some-
medieval peasants on the
You have
boat.
some Coronas on the boat though.
No Coronas. We had Pacifico because Pacifico beer is from Mazatlan, actually.
Ah,
Very delicious,
Oh,
very
I think I've
delightful.
had that. It's good.
Very good beer. It's better than Corona, in my opinion.
Yeah, Corona's the famous one.
Corona's
Corona's
huge,
like-
but I'm not a massive fan of it, to be honest with you.
Corona's like
Damn.
the vanilla of beers, I feel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Vanilla light. Anyway, that's enough about me and my Mexican journeys. Cole, what have you been up to in the fortnight since I've spoken to you last?
Well, I've been playing Fortnite because
I doubt
Hatsune
that.
Miku is in it.
I knew it.
I might play because Hatsune Miku. That'll be
They
the first time I
also-
play Fortnite.
They also
Anyway,
recently
Yeah,
added.
I think Lane may have hopped into Jay's.
Am I back?
Sorry,
still
Jay,
here.
you were frozen there for a minute. You're
Yeah.
back. You're back. Go ahead, Jay.
They also recently added the main trio, I guess, or main four, because it's the 2 girls and 2 main guys from Kaiju number 8.
Oh, really?
Cool.
Nobody cares about them. It's all
Yes.
Hatsune Miku.
That's how Hatsune Miku. Miku
Yeah.
Beam. Am I right?
Yeah, with her emotes, I love them. Anyway, what have I actually been doing? I binged all of Medalist, the manga, this week because I watched last week's episode. And I was like, I
And he
need more.
cried.
I need it. No, this week apparently was the tearjerker one, which I could see it being, but it wasn't for me because I'm a robot. But
Didn't you
I
also go see
wanted.
a movie?
I did also go see a movie. Again, didn't make me cry. I'm a robot.
Oh well, made me
But
cry.
I'll talk about the movie in a second. It's on my list.
Okay.
Yeah, you guys talk about the movie after.
Yeah. The Medalist is really good. It's been like affecting me in weird ways too. Like
Yeah.
I don't know, if something goes wrong in my life, I'm like, hey, you got to just push through, because if Inori could start skating at 11 years old and make it as far as she did, then hey, what the hell, I can do it too as a 33-year-old man.
I feel like I can see a Medalist review in our near future, like for
it's
the
tough.
manga.
Yeah, possibly. It is good. I liked it, but I
Yeah.
know you dropped it, so it's interesting. I'd like to
It's-
talk to you about it off air, I think.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I mean, go ahead if you've got something to add to it.
I mean, like, no, I feel like I get why people like it. It's just like
Mhm.
it didn't do. I think most of it is just like it didn't do what I thought it was going to, and so I was a bit let down.
I know that feeling all too well, Jay. I know
Yeah.
that feeling all too well. But I went and saw Colors Within on Thursday,
Mm-hmm.
so that
This is
was 2 days ago. And Jay went and saw Colors Within yesterday.
Yep.
And as a quick review, very, very brief, I actually ended up seeing the dub. I thought the dub was pretty well done. Even the music in it wasn't as cringy as I thought it would be.
Mm.
I'm glad you've become more accepting in your ways, because when you realized you bought the dub ticket, what did you say? What was your reaction?
That was a joke. It was, how did I type it out? I just realized I got tickets to the dub. But that was mostly just a shot.
Mostly memeing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mostly memeing. But it was pretty good. I'd give it like a solid 8. I feel like a solid 8. Solid 8. Maybe 8.5.
Extremely solid 8. Okay.
Yeah. But Jay, I know you're a huge Science Saru fan.
Yeah.
So
I mean, this movie was gorgeous. Like,
it's a very pretty movie. Yeah.
yeah. From top to bottom, this movie looks so pretty.
That's the best
which-
part of anime movies, is they just always look gorgeous.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And I mean, especially so in this one, and it kind of makes sense because it's like colors, and so like they kind of need
Yeah.
to do that.
It better look good. Yeah.
Yeah. But on top of that, I feel like I don't know. I mean, Cole's also a robot, but the emotional bits just like really hit for me.
Yeah. Did you
Uh,
cry?
I got misty eyed. Definitely.
Yeah.
He's getting old.
You know what I
and
think might
weary.
have ruined it for me was I could hear these people whispering behind me.
Oh, that does
Mm,
ruin things.
Yeah. Another
need-
thing I just want to
You need
point
to go
out
to movies
about
with earplugs. That way you don't notice everyone around you. And blinders. Earplugs
and
and,
also not
blinders.
hear the movie.
yeah.
I wear earplugs to concerts. You still can hear.
I'll absorb it. The other thing I just want to just a quick report. Did they have proper musical equipment with the logos and the names of all the equipment? Yes, they did. Even the
Okay,
guitar
sponsored.
did say Rickenbacker on it. I think there was an orange amp. There was a Moog theremin. Theremin.
Yeah, there was
That's
a
That's a
theremin
deep
in-
cut.
Never
That's a
think
deep
to
cut.
in the
theremin.
Well, insert
Casio
theremin noise
keyboards.
now. Yeah. Insert theremin noise in the edit here.
There.
Mm,
There's
there
your
you
Which,
theremin noise.
Which song
Hmm.
was your favorite between the three?
I like the
I like-
first one that they played at the end. I think
like the
that
third
was a
one.
pretty cool one.
I like the third one.
The third one is like the one off of the trailers and everything.
Yeah, that's like
Yeah.
that's the titular one.
Yeah, that's why I like it. Haven't seen
Yeah,
the movie.
it was good. It was good. It's a good
It
movie.
was,
Mike,
it
you
was a
should go
very
see it.
good movie. Yeah.
I should see it. Yep, I agree. I would like to see it.
There was oh, sorry, Jay, go ahead.
I was just gonna say it's also by the director of A Silent Voice, and like you can really tell because like it really has that same directorial style as A Silent Voice.
Has the feel of it. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I really enjoyed the messaging of it as well and all of that stuff. But there was big news this week, gentlemen. Do you guys want to discuss it?
Oh God.
Welcome to the Game Corner.
In the world's biggest statement of, okay, fine, here you go, Nintendo announced the Switch 2 Electric Boogaloo. And you know what? I'm on the fence about, like, I'm excited for the Switch, of course. It looks great. But I think I might be less jazzed about it than some of the other people would be. So I'll let you guys fanboy a little bit before I crush your dreams. Your hopes and dreams.
Well, I mean, it's a sequel, right? So I feel like it's natural to be a little more, little less overwhelmed, more just whelmed by the announcement, especially because we've been, like seen it coming, and like I feel like the leaks have been pretty strong for this one.
Oh,
we know
the
like,
leaks
sort
have
of
been like
everything about the
almost.
console.
Yeah,
We sort of knew all of this already, right? So it's kind of like it just takes the steam out of the hot air balloon, you know.
They also didn't show everything in this trailer that was leaked.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. I mean, and like, I'm sure the Switch 2 is like, obviously will be like a massive upgrade. The Switch has always been an underpowered machine. And I'm not saying that the Switch 2 is necessarily going to catch up. But I think it's a huge step in that direction.
I saw someone was saying we should expect like slightly better than PS4 levels of power, which would make sense. They're usually like a generation-ish behind with their consoles, so
and I mean
that makes sense.
It's also a portable, like it's a handheld thing as well as a home thing. So like, having basically a PS4 anywhere you go is still insanely cool.
Oh yeah.
As someone with a Steam Deck, having a thinner, more like portable Steam Deck, which is basically what this is, that plays Nintendo games, sounds perfect. Yeah. And honestly, if they I could see a world, and I have a feeling this is going to happen. They're going to have that DLSS worked into this, where it's like, it basically like super resolutions it, so it doesn't need as much resources. It's what all the new graphics cards do on games. And basically you get like way more frame rate and like resolution without using as much. It basically, I have a feeling that's going to be in the consoles going forward. So,
so bigger, better, and more features, and we don't even like, they haven't really even announced all of the features. I know lots of people are speculating about the actual, what are the Switch remotes called?
The Joy-Cons.
Joy-Cons having like a like
mouse
almost mouse capability to them,
an optic sensor in it.
Yeah.
I don't know about that. I don't. First of all, I don't really care about that.
Well, I mean, if there's games that are designed to do that,
I think it would honestly like be really cool for games like Metroid Prime, where like you have mouse controls for aiming and stuff like that.
That would actually be really good. Actually, now that you say that, that would be sweet. Having like basically like the option for like mouse, that would make it like the ultimate Fortnite and like that, like basically shooter console. Actually,
yeah, the FPSs will be
insane
fire
on the Switch too.
Yeah.
Well, that's great that you guys talked about the Switch too. I was actually referring though to Mario Kart 9. That has all but been announced.
There was like one more thing that I wanted to talk about for the Switch.
I'm kidding. Yeah. No, this is all related. Mario Kart 9 was like the game that they kind of showed off with it.
Yeah.
They like soft dropped it. They were like, hey, cool, look at Mario Kart on the new console. And people were like, hold on a second. That's a new Mario Kart.
Yeah. That's not Donkey Kong.
There's 24 carts on that track.
Yeah. That's and as a Mario Kart aficionado and master,
Mm-hmm.
self-proclaimed. Yeah, I'm pretty hyped about that one. That's almost a console seller for me, to be honest.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean,
Yeah.
it makes sense. Like, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe was the best-selling game on the Switch. So, like, making that their launch title on their new console,
Yeah.
it just makes so much sense.
Who's
It,
going to buy a regular console? Everybody's going to buy the bundle.
It juices
Yeah.
their numbers too, like
Yeah.
when they talk about how many times, because then it says like Mario Kart 8 sells, basically everyone who buys a Switch 2 is going to also buy Mario Kart 8, right? That's
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
juices the numbers a little bit. Jay, you were very, very, very excited to mention another thing about Switch 2, though. I don't want to lose that.
But
Yeah.
real quick before we get to that, just to wrap up my thoughts on Mario Kart 9, I just hope that like we get a single player game alongside it, because like I'm not
Yeah.
like as someone
Oh,
who lives
yeah.
who plays games on their own,
hmm
I don't like. I'm not going to be playing Mario Kart 9 all the time, so like
Yeah. I gotcha.
I'm worried to play or to get a Switch 2 and like not be using it.
Yeah. Well,
suspect
I
it
got two
will.
words for you.
Oh,
Backwards compatibility, Jay.
Yeah, but I
Mhm.
mean, if I'm just going to be playing tons of Switch games, then I may as well just use my Switch, right?
Yep, for sure. But they'll offer like better. You'll be able to play your Switch games in 60 FPS is probably what
Yeah.
I would guess will happen there. And then the other thing is like
Hopefully.
the rumor has been that we are probably getting a remake or a remaster of a Zelda game to launch with it. And the rumor's been Breath of the Wild. I've also seen Ocarina of Time just because people always love.
I want
but-
Twilight Princess. That's the one that hasn't been remastered on anything. You
I
can't
could
play
see
it on the
that.
Switch.
I've heard a remake of Breath of the Wild, and like personally, I don't think it makes sense just because like you could already play Breath of the Wild on Switch 2.
I kind
Yeah,
of
let-
agree. Yeah.
Not a lot of people would. It'd be easy for them just to remaster it, basically. But like, what? I wouldn't buy a remake of like. It's only been out 6 years, I think.
Well, it came out basically the same time the Switch did.
Day and date
Yeah.
with launch.
Yeah.
Yeah, it came out. It
Switch.
was a launch title.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I can't. Switch launched in
2017.
2017?
2017.
March 3rd, 2017.
So Jay, the powers are showing there. The powers
Yeah.
are showing. Man, that's crazy that it's been that long already. But like
Yeah.
we've been due. People have been asking for a more powerful Switch since literally March 3rd, 2017.
hmm
So like,
Yeah.
yeah,
I'm with Cole though. Give me Twilight Princess or give me Wind Waker.
I agree.
One of the two.
Wind Waker, yeah.
My
One of
heart
those
says
two.
Wind Waker, but my brain says Twilight Princess a little bit, and then a little part of me, deep down inside, kind of knows it's going to be Breath of the Wild.
It'll be Breath of the
HD.
Wild. Yeah.
Yeah.
It'll be Breath of the Wild, and I'll be like, I'm
What's the
thoroughly
point?
whelmed.
Yeah. Dang it.
Jay, but you did have something. You were
I did
so
have- yeah.
excited you
Yeah.
couldn't even wait to bring it up.
So there was another thing that like Nintendo kind of like censored out from the Switch 2 release, and that's the button underneath the home button on the Joy-Con.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And people have been speculating a lot on what this thing does. Like, what's this button for? And that's
Yeah,
the
it's
C
interesting.
button.
I've heard that.
And
yeah.
people have been like, "What does C mean?"
Well,
right.
it's the C buttons.
It's a reference to the old C stick that they used to have.
But like,
Well,
what does
it's
it do?
that's even N64 had the C buttons.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they had the C buttons. They were directional.
Yeah.
No, I know.
Yeah,
I know.
I'm
What is it
we're-
for?
Me and Cole are
It's just
basically just
another
saying
button.
like, yeah, we're
another
just
button.
saying like it's a reference to the old C buttons, but
It's a
like
self-destruct
Just a
button.
reference. It doesn't actually do anything.
It's a self-destruct button.
let's speculate. Let's speculate wildly here. What do you think it's going to
Okay.
be?
It'll be another button for games. Like, what else
Shut
could
up.
it possibly be?
Yeah, but why is it there underneath the home
It's-
button then?
I feel like having it close to the home button is a clue here. Like it's not going to be I feel like it'll be like in the vein of like a screenshot button or like a share button.
So
Yeah.
maybe, but if that's the
Does-
case, then
does the
why
Switch
is the
already have one?
screenshot button or on the other controller but not the home button?
Right. Yeah. I don't think it's going to be a screenshot button, but I think it's going to be in that vein. It's not going to be something
Yeah.
you use in game, but it'll be like a feature of the Switch 2 is what I'm
I
guessing.
think it's going to be something like kind of what you're alluding to. Like it's more functionality for the console rather than
Yeah.
like something you use to play a game.
Mhm.
Yeah. 'Cause it's
here's-
interesting for sure.
I have a theory.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So my theory is that the C button stands for connect.
I was gonna say connect, but like,
And-
what would happen with that?
So
then?
so what you'll be able to do is you'll press the C button, and you'll be able to, through Bluetooth, connect your Switch to like any device that uses Bluetooth.
Mm-hmm.
So like you can connect it to like a PC monitor, or like a
could
or like
see
a
that.
phone, or like a tablet or something like that,
Okay.
without
I
having
thi-
to use the dock.
I think you've probably got it, but I do see another possible theory here, Jay, that actually makes a lot of sense. User on Reddit here says that it's the copyright button. If you see that someone's copywriting Nintendo content, you press that button and they're immediately sent to jail.
Yeah.
That's
I
it.
feel like that's an appropriate Nintendo button.
Yes.
I'm hearing, or I heard a single rumor, like for release. When do you guys think this is going to be released?
September.
I was thinking like November.
I'd put money on September or August.
I heard a rumor, and tell me if I'm crazy.
Okay, you're crazy.
Mm-hmm.
June.
I heard that
Possible.
rumor too.
Possible.
Yeah. I've heard that, and it was from the person who's like leaked all of the hyper detailed shots of the Switch 2 before it was actually announced.
The person who Nintendo's actively hunting for right now, who
Where
forced
is
them
he?
to reveal this trailer early.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's one thing we didn't touch on, was like, it was sort of like a crap, we need to put something out now because it's basically all leaked.
Yeah. No, like I said, it was the world's biggest fine, here you go.
I do kind of want to like play devil's advocate a little bit here. If they're just doing like a fine, here you go kind of thing, then why hide stuff still? Like why censor a button that's
They want to put out their trailer they've been working on that's like the full Nintendo
Right,
Direct
but-
trailer. That's what they
right,
want
but then they would have made it like under the assumption that you'd already seen the leaks.
Yeah, but like they still want to like make that official announcement at a Nintendo event, I think
yeah, that's how I
would
Yeah,
be the
but then-
reason.
Right, but like that doesn't really come across as like fine, here you go.
Well, I
Well,
don't think it was
it's an acknowledgement of like a lot of this is already out there. We've kind of got to contain the fire a little bit.
Yeah. I don't think of it so much as fine, here you go. To me, it's more of we need to put something out.
Yeah.
And this just
Because
like
everybody's going to be
basic-
asking us anyway.
Yeah. A graphical rendering will just do, is enough for now. People will shut up and then we can actually do what we want to do. I
Mhm.
think that's my take on what happened anyway.
I don't know. Who knows? I don't. I'm not in business.
One of the rumors was also that like the console reveal, even before we got like all the stuff,
Mhm.
was that the console reveal was going to be very minimalistic, and that's what this
Mhm.
is. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. They'll obviously have something else for their
Yeah.
direct. When are they doing it?
April 4th
April 4th
or April
yeah.
2nd. Sorry.
April
Did you
2nd,
say-
right? Yeah, because I thought it was February
Yeah,
4th.
because dating numbers is annoying.
Yeah. Did you guys say June was the rumor date you heard then?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in that direct, they're going to end it with launching next month.
2
Well,
months.
2 months.
Yeah.
2 months, April,
May, June.
May. Forgot about May.
Can't never forget about May. No.
Yeah.
No.
Justin Timberlake won't let me.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I
what-
don't.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, I was just gonna say, did you guys want to maybe talk about some of the concerns that people are sharing online?
That's where I was going to, Cole.
Perfect.
Same,
Man,
same
brain.
We're on the wired. We're wired together here.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. The biggest thing that people I see saying, and this is what they said the same dang thing about the original Switch too, is the Joy-Cons are going to snap off. I'm going to have my Joy-Cons snap off.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, it'll happen to a few people, sure.
sure.
But like, I'm sure I give Nintendo the benefit of the doubt on this. They make consoles heckin' durable. They're made of Nintendium. They know that they're giving some angry parent who's like on their last wit is going to hurtle this thing at their kid and say, just play your Switch.
yeah.
And
Here's the
kid's
thing.
going to throw it at the wall and it's going to be fine.
Yeah, here's the thing. Like, you look at the Switch and it's like, it's all plastic. It's going to, well, yeah, the outside of it is plastic. Like, it's pretty well reinforced internally so that things won't just snap off.
Yeah.
They'd be replacing consoles left, right, and center if people had
Yeah.
to,
I
if they were
also-
just breaking.
I also have to assume that this thing has been play tested, like
Oh, for sure.
to death. Like, there's no way they just like drew something on a napkin and said like, "Great, make it."
Yeah.
You know,
They're Nintendo. Here is my 3DS. This thing is in great shape. It's like, I don't even know how old. It's over 10 years old.
Yeah.
I'll throw it right now. I'll throw it right now.
I also like
Snap it in half, it'll still work.
Yeah.
I remember seeing so many people take their Joy-Cons off without using the release button and then being like, "It's broken." And I'm like, "Yeah, because you didn't use
You broke it.
You broke
it."
It's broken.
Yeah.
What are you? When you break something, it breaks. Yeah.
It's broken.
The other thing is, did you guys ever accidentally put your Joy-Cons in backwards or whatever? 'Cause I did that one time, and that's a scary situation where it's like it gets kind of jammed in there.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
but
get it
that
out.
like okay, it gets jammed in there. Like it's not breaking though.
No,
despite
yeah.
you,
Yeah, I'm trying to
Yeah.
break it. Yeah,
yeah, borderline actively trying to break it.
yeah.
And the magnets they're
Yeah.
going to be using in it, because I think it's all but been confirmed that it's magnets that are holding the Joy-Cons on there. They're not going to be like fridge magnets. They're going to have some pretty decent like connection power.
Looking at the quote unquote leaked diagrams that I saw, it looks to me like it's gonna have some sort of mechanism where like, yeah, it's held on by magnets, but I think the magnets have like a little lever that slides out that like locks it into place.
Mm. Yeah, I could see that.
I have a
Yeah.
feeling that it's not just going to be just magnet holding it on. I think there's going to be a secondary mechanism. Because if you look at the leaked diagram or whatever, there's quite a bit of like stuff going on the ridge of the Joy-Con. So I think that I have a feeling they wouldn't rely on just magnet.
Yeah. So the other like just major concern I have with it is just kind of a Nintendo thing, you know, like Nintendo for the last few generations has just been all about like innovating and trying to find like the new thing.
Mm-hmm.
And for them to just kind of release, you know, here's the Switch again.
Yeah.
It just doesn't feel like a very modern Nintendo thing to do. I'm nitpicking, I know. Like I'm hyped about it, but like that was a thought that crossed my mind.
I get what you're saying. At the same time though, like the Switch is just the gamepad, but you put it into a dock to transmit it to the TV.
Yeah,
right.
My counter to you, Cole, would be behind me. I have a Nintendo Game Boy Advanced.
Mm-hmm.
In my drawer here, I have a Game Boy Advanced SP.
Mm-hmm.
I also have a DS Lite and a 3DS and a new 3DS. This is what Nintendo does. They put out something, it's successful. They just kind of like rework it and make it better until eventually they do make something
I always think of the handheld stuff as like a separate thing.
But the Switch is a handheld.
It is a handheld. That is true.
But it's also a home console. Like there are people like me who don't use the Switch as a handheld.
But I'd also argue
Yes.
that like handheld is Nintendo's biggest selling device.
But
I
besides
would argue
that,
they've scrapped the home console and they've basically mostly focused on the handheld aspects for the Switch.
Yeah.
besides that though, like even going back to the DS, okay, so there was the Game Boy, you know,
Yeah.
then they went Game Boy Color. They added color
Yeah.
in. That's a pretty big jump.
Huge. Yeah.
Game Boy
There's pocket
Advanced,
in
you know,
between.
they went to 16-bit at that point. Like those are
Yep.
big jumps at the time.
Yeah.
They're not just little incremental things.
But they're not
Even going from
innovations like Nintendo. They're just like they're just technological advancements that have already been done.
But I would argue that like 8-bit to 16-bit is comparable from like 720p 30 hertz to 1080p 60 hertz. I just have if that's what it is. I'm just spitballing that's what it might be.
But like the other thing too is this was like the early 90s too. Like that's it's not just like these are technological innovations.
Yeah, but that's
and
not
then
something
even
that you can attribute to Nintendo. Really, it's just like something. That
and then even
gaming in general
the
is doing.
DS to the 3DS, you know, like they added that 3D functionality to it without requiring 3D glasses and stuff like that. I like they've done stuff to the Game Boy that isn't just necessarily here's another Game Boy. Like, okay, yeah, here's another Game Boy, but we added something to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, I think the 3DS is basically like here's a DS, but we added 3D.
Yeah, that's what I just said.
Yeah, but like
that's a big thing.
But like
nobody
that's
else did that.
Basically, like what the Switch 2 is like. Here's a Switch, but like we added an optic sensor into the Joy-Con.
There'll be something. There'll be something that they're saving. They have up their sleeve. I'm sure of it.
I'm sure they will as well. But then
it's a C button, guys. We talked about it already.
You go from the GameCube to the Wii, like that's huge. You know, that's changing completely the way that games were played at the time.
But I think if you take that specific one out, they kind of don't do that often.
What's the big advancement really between the Wii and the Wii U?
The gamepad that was used.
Right, and people thought that was just like an add-on for the Wii.
Sure, yeah. Well, I mean, that was just poor marketing. Like they should never have called it the Wii U.
No.
Well, I think it's more they should have shown the actual console instead of just advertising it as like the gamepad.
Like that was a Nintendo problem. Like,
but
there
like
was
my point I'm trying to make
between...
is like the only real change they made between Wii and Wii U is like they made another controller.
Basically, they made a Switch-like controller. But I think we're trying to like reason out a company that is kind of notoriously like insane, for lack of a better word. Like they are going to do whatever the hell they want, and they don't really listen. Yeah.
That's kind of what I'm saying. Yeah. I was expecting something more insane from Nintendo, and this was just very like even the name Switch 2, like that's a PlayStation thing. Like PlayStation does that.
You know? I was surprised by that. I was expecting new Switch or something, because like
just a whole new name.
The issue with that is like because Nintendo's learned from this, right?
Yeah.
What if you name it New Switch and people just think it's another Switch?
Yeah, 2 is a clear successor.
Yeah.
But I think we should maybe move on to Cole's little anime, maybe.
You keep saying stuff I want to respond.
I know. We could have a whole episode on this. Maybe we'll do a gaming bonus or something.
Actually, yeah, that's not bad. That's not a bad idea. Just real quick, I guess, like we kind of went pretty long with the Nintendo 2 thing. Lost Media was an interesting thing. Basically, I watched while I was going through my Lane binge, video popped up where they talked about there's somebody uploaded they taped Serial Experiments Lain on like the Sunday after September 11th, 2001. And there was like this blurb at the top of it about like them recognizing an American tragedy and stuff like that. And it's just this very strange, surreal thing of this lost media that nobody, like, why would somebody have something like that?
Yeah. Why would someone have this recording of American TV station broadcasting a Japanese anime in 2001, right? Like, very weird thing. It's very, if you want to watch it, it's just type in Serial Experiments Lain, I think 9/11, it'll come up.
9/11, yeah.
It honestly, as soon as I type in Serial Experiments Lain, it comes up. It's in the search on YouTube. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. If you just look up Serial Experiments Lain and scroll for a little bit, it'll come up. It's like a 30-second clip.
It's like a 30-second thing. Yeah.
That whole story is interesting too, about like that PBS station that brought in a bunch of anime. Did you guys watch the video?
I did. Yeah. And I'm actually scrolling right now because I feel like we should at least shout out the person who inspired this this section of the podcast here.
Yeah.
Their YouTube is Screen Takes. Good video on Serial Experiments Lain. Lost media there.
Just for the sake of credit, go watch the video. Links in the description, probably.
We'll put it in there.
Yeah,
it's definitely in the Discord. Come to our Discord.
Yes.
But looking into stuff, just lost media in general is an interesting topic. Did you know that the original recordings of Apollo 11, the first man on the moon, is technically lost media? NASA lost it.
Really?
That's why we have only crappy footage of Neil Armstrong going down to the surface of the moon. When people watched it on TV, it was actually much clearer. So what we're watching is just essentially recordings of that have been copied.
That's insane. Imagine losing that. Like, someone had to be fired for that.
Well, who knows? Yeah. But it's just an interesting thing. Like, do you guys have any things of lost media? Maybe something you watched as a kid that you're like, man, I've looked for this. I can't find it anywhere.
Just like to tie it into our gaming discussion, because just because, you know, be cool. There's a lot of lost media in gaming. It's like it's huge. And one of the ones that I vividly remember looking at is Earthbound 64, and like the promotional stuff for that before it was scrapped. Because Earthbound 64 was what eventually became Mother 3, which we also never got here, but
yeah, it's not lost media then at that point.
That's, Mother 3 isn't
us
lost,
just not getting it. Yeah,
we never got Earthbound 64 never came out.
Yeah, it's
And
kind of
like
more
all the
interesting to talk
promotional
about.
stuff
Like,
was lost for a while, and then like it just recently.
I think part of lost
Start
media
coming
is
back.
like it's more interest. Like just saying, okay, there's this thing we lost and we don't have it. Not very interesting to talk about, right? But it's more interesting when you find the lost media, and I find that those are usually like the more interesting things. Like this, for example, the Lane clip we were talking about, right? Like you never heard about anyone talking, I need to see this, until someone finds it, right?
Right.
Something that I saw come up recently. Have you guys seen the animated show Star versus the Forces of Evil?
No.
No.
Okay. So it was a Disney Channel show from like the early 2010s. And like a couple weeks ago, people found the Nickelodeon pilot that was made for the show. That like never released to the public or anything, and anything like that.
Oh, that's cool.
But
Yeah.
that came out online. I thought that was cool. Like
it was just never released. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you guys know I love to come back to Star Wars. Technically, you could say, despite
Scratch
you
your
being
bingo
able to
card.
watch it, is like the Star Wars holiday special was destroyed. George Lucas destroyed all of it, but like people were able to keep this piece of lost media, and now you can buy like bootleg DVDs and stuff.
Didn't
We
Mark
watched it
Hamill
recently.
do that as a favor to George Lucas?
Probably. George Lucas has a quote saying like, if he could, he would go around and like burn every copy in the world if he could.
It's valid though. As someone who's watched it, fair. It's horrible.
It's very bad.
It's horrendous.
But a more recent one would be, do you guys remember the planned video game Star Wars 1313?
Yes.
It was supposed to take place in like the Coruscant Underground, and like almost kind of like what Outlaws turned into now. But like not bad. Allegedly, the game never came out. Obviously,
who was supposed to make that game? Do you remember?
I'm looking at it right now. Well, I mean, LucasArts was supposed to do it.
Was it just LucasArts?
Yeah, because LucasArts used to make games.
Yeah,
That's
they
like
did.
what they did.
No, I know, but like I thought someone like made it for them.
I think didn't Rare used to make games for Star Wars too? I can't remember.
I think LucasArts. Okay, here.
Anyway.
Star Wars 13 is canceled action adventure video game that was under development by LucasArts. Yeah.
Huh.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah, speaking of lost media, LucasArts.
What year was
yeah.
that? What year?
2000.
It was canceled on April 3rd, 2013. I'm reading the Wikipedia
Okay,
article.
it's old.
Yeah. But yeah, everything about that game, like people were so hyped about it. I was pretty excited about it, and then it just kind of was canceled. Battlefront 3 as well. Like in the original chronology of chronology. Whatever.
Canceled is interesting because it's kind of like it's sort of lost, but it's also like it never really. Can it be lost if it was never found? Do you know? Like,
I know.
Is it still lost?
Yeah, but it's
right?
all
Like,
of the like promotional material
Right.
and everything. Like they were, it was in development. They had every intention of releasing it.
Yeah.
And I know with Battlefront 3, like there is like unfinished gameplay you can go and look up.
Yeah.
And it looked cool. Seamless battles from surface to space battles.
I have one that's
awesome.
kind of in the same vein, actually, of like, it's
okay.
Again, it's another case of like lost media that was somewhat recently found, right? And that's again, like Cole, bringing everything always back to Star Wars, I always bring it back to Pokemon. And the Pokemon Space World demo is kind of a infamous thing that came out fairly recently that is kind of a cool thing because basically after Red and Blue in Japan, Blue and Green, I believe, came out, Red and Green. That's right, Fire Red, Leaf Green. Yeah. They put out this, they attended this, they used to have this Space World thing in Japan, and they brought a copy of their new Gold and Silver that were coming out. It was a demo for it. And it had like completely new Pokemon in it. Like people were expecting that, obviously. Mm-hmm. And like people were able to play it at this Space World event. And then they basically like they got, when Gold and Silver finally came out, those same people were like, this is not the game I played at Space World. Like there's different Pokemon. Everything's different in it.
Yeah. And
then in like 2018, someone actually leaked the actual ROM files of these two things. And like people were like actually able to find it. So it's pretty cool. It's a pretty cool piece of lost media, right?
Yeah. Yeah, there's lots of lost media, of course. Like, you know, Mike's obsessed with Pokemon. I'm obsessed with Star Wars. So that's all we can think about. Mm-hmm. But I mean, by all means, let us know in the comments below. Like, there was
one more that came to mind.
Okay,
real quick.
Jace got one.
Just real quick.
Jace got one.
Have you guys heard of the crazily popular series Final Fantasy?
I've heard of that game. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have you guys heard of the game Final Fantasy VIII?
I mean,
yes,
in my brain, I would.
Yeah.
Like,
okay.
There's 7.
I
there's
feel like
9.
I've beaten it. Yeah.
So kind of crazy that I found out when the remaster was released. The reason it took so long for us to get a remaster is because the original dev files for the game were lost for so many years.
Huh.
And they had they had found them right around the time, supposedly, when we got the remaster.
I love the whole Final Fantasy stuff. To me, is just so interesting because which was like we didn't get Final Fantasy 1 here, right?
No, we didn't get 2.
Yeah.
We didn't get 2, 3, or 5.
And like some of them came out of order too. Like I think 3 was titled 4. Like 4 was titled 3 over
4
here.
4 was titled 2, and 6 was titled 3.
There you go. See,
like what I was getting at was like the North American release of Final Fantasy is just such an interesting.
Oh, back in the day, North American releases were always weird for video games like that. Like they would just do whatever. Like they would just.
And then in Europe, it was even more confusing because they only got what we got as Mystic Quest, but I think like there it was called Final Fantasy Adventure or something like that.
Oh, okay.
And then they got Final Fantasy VII called Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah, but like back in the day, kind of like, which is part of what makes like, again, we're going to talk about Lane in the second half, right? And like a lot of these things we're talking about it's in like came out around the same time, right? And the reason they were able to do that with these games that we're talking about, where they title it all sorts of weird things, because they were like, they have no way to ever contact Japan. They will never know that Final Fantasy 3 or Final Fantasy 4 is called 3 here and it should be 4.
Yeah.
Little do they know, now the world is so interconnected.
Yeah.
The Wired is out there, right? And
but even from the other thing, like one of the messages in Serial Experiments Lain is that like you don't exist if nobody knows that you don't exist. So like we didn't know about
exactly.
We didn't know about it. So to us, it was all correct. But it wasn't correct though, because in Japan it was something else. But we couldn't know. There was no way that we could know. But nowadays we can know because we can ask somebody who would have known at the time, but we didn't know then.
Exactly.
You know,
it's like when I went to go watch the Digimon Adventure movie, which is kind of a piece of lost media these days, I think. Sort of, because I don't think you can really get it anymore.
Where can you find it?
Right,
it is, but it isn't. Yeah, like I'm sure you can find it.
I think it's because it had like a really banging soundtrack, and I don't think they can license it anymore. But I think, when you go to watch it, you're like, I'm an adult weeb now. I want to watch this movie from my childhood. You find out that it's like they just basically spliced together 3 separate OVAs of Digimon from from Japan, and it's like they just like somehow made the plot somewhat relevant.
Well, lots of localizations like that.
Yeah.
Where it's like, well, we just kind of hammered everything together. Yeah. Anyway, this is getting ridiculous. We got to go to a break. We're going to talk about Lane after the break. It's going to be an excellent discussion, I think.
It's going to be chaotic. I'm so sorry.
It'll be a good
am
time.
I? Find out after the break.
Break.
Hello there.
Hello there.
I just wanted to pop in to remind you, listen, if you're enjoying the episode so far, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. It's a small click for you, but it's a huge help for us. And by the way, while I got you here, did you know we've got a Discord community? It's the perfect place to hang out and chat with us and other fellow listeners, and maybe even share your thoughts on today's episode. Now, if you're looking for a way to support the show directly, check out our Patreon. Not only will you help us keep the lights on, I've got all of these fancy lights here in my studio, you also get access to some awesome perks like early episodes and a weekly shout out and more. So hit the like button, join the Discord, and consider becoming a patron. Links to everything is in the description. Thanks for listening, and now back to AniPro.
I've always wanted to see Boogie Pop. I keep feeling like it's good.
I only watched the remake. More recently.
Yeah, Boogie Pop and others.
Yeah, I've only seen that one. I don't even think I finished it. Anyway, welcome back to AniPro. We're talking about Boogie Pop for some reason. I don't know. Things get crazy on our brains.
We're wild and crazy.
We're wild crazy.
You never know what we'll do next.
Jay's drinking literal swamp water. Who knows what's going to
What is that, sludge? What is in that bottle?
Let's play What's in Jay's Bottle this week.
Yeah.
No, we have an important thing. Ladies and gentlemen, this is
I don't know
the
what you're
final
talking about.
review of our block of reviews. So that means that we've got to start picking out shows for our next block of reviews. So the best way to start that is with our 3 picks for our next
This is
upcoming
true?
reviews. This
We
is
are
true.
the gods of
Jay,
the podcast. We decide these things.
yeah, Jay did the research. He checked into it. It's all correct.
I did the math. The numbers add up.
It's a new
good.
year.
There's 3. Yep.
New year, new podcast where we are going to proper legal AniPro order. So that means it's Cole, Mike, Jay.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yes. So I started off with my review. This is a show.
I know what it is.
Here's-
No, I'm joking.
Oh, it's an anime. Got it. I know it.
Yeah. Well, it's a show I've long it's long been on my watch list for a long time.
Okay.
I see it's
Oh, I
on
know
Mike's
it.
watch list, and I'm pretty sure Jay has watched it. So this'll
Plan
be
to
an
watch
interesting
or
one.
watch list?
Jay has watched it. It's on your planning to watch.
Okay.
Okay.
Sorry, that's what I mean. It's on my planning to watch as well.
Okay.
It's from KyoAni.
Mhm.
Okay.
Came out in 2013. It's sitting at a very nice 72% on Annie list right now. I'm not going to beat around the bush too much with, trying to kind of give you hints and stuff like that. I'm just going to tell you what the show is. So don't expect me to kind of waste your time with kind of like,
It's just
talking.
not something you do, really.
It's not
Just
something I typically do. That's
Yeah.
something like maybe you'd go to a different podcast to kind of have them kind of, stretch out,
Yeah.
pad out time, stuff like that.
People come here for clear, concise, and
Concise,
like,
efficient announcements of
podcasting.
anime.
Oh no.
Yeah. So the anime that I'm going to talk about, like I said, it's been on my planning to watch list for a long time. Okay. I
Oh,
got the
God.
reaction out of Mike I wanted. I'm nominating Tamako Market for our next review.
Oh, okay.
This has been, it's just always been kind of on the peripheral for me.
Yeah.
And I feel like these reviews are a good push for me to finally watch something I've
Yep,
been
I agree.
wanting to watch for a long time. So that's
Yep.
the next review I guess we're going to do anime-wise would be Tamako Market.
Interesting.
Tamako
Yeah.
Market.
What's that one kind of? What's that one sort of about? Like, what's?
I don't know. I
Well, you know
don't know.
what, Cole?
It's a slice of life. I know that. The second season is called like Tamako Market, like romance or something like that. So I'm assuming there's some romance elements to it.
Tamako Love Story is the
Tamako Love
sequel.
Story. That's it. Yeah. Basically, Tamako's a girl. She knows just about everything there is to know about mochi.
Okay. It's
And,
one of the
yeah,
reviews here says as simple and soft as mochi, the family and community vibe of this cute slice of life will greet you in cordial ways. So yeah,
Yeah, I think it's a slice of life. So it's probably going to be pretty tough to describe the plot of it. But
yeah. That's about
KyoAni
it.
slice of life, like what There is no better combination. Step aside peanut butter and chocolate. Step aside.
What about peanut butter and
something else.
jelly?
Yeah.
No, step aside.
Step aside, Cole, Mike, and Jay.
Yeah.
We got Tamako and Market.
We got Tamako and Market and KyoAni and Slice
Yeah.
of Life. Mike, what's your what are we reviewing? What are you making me watch?
Well,
are you making us
it's,
watch?
It's funny you ask. It's funny you ask because, unlike you, I am going to beat around the bush. I'm going to make you figure it out. Okay.
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 I'm making us watch something that is wildly popular. Wildly popular.
Got
okay.
it.
Okay.
Hugely popular. What a surprise! The normie would pick a popular show, right? Okay.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
None of us, I don't think, have watched it.
Okay.
Okay.
I don't think. I actually didn't check, but I'm pretty sure none of us have watched it. It's a
haven't
bold
looked
strategy.
into it.
We'll see if it
Yeah.
pays off. I didn't do the research. I'm not Jay. I mostly subsist on vibes, okay? And this show kind of seems
He's
like a
Mike,
vibe.
vibe guy.
Yeah, vibes. I don't know what the vibe of this show is, really.
Okay.
I don't know.
Interesting for big vibe guy.
I don't know a heck of a lot about it, but I know
to
it's
show off the vibes. I don't know what the vibe is.
I know it's super popular. The trivia that you might know is at our local anime convention, I obtained a card of a character from this anime. No one will know the answer to that because I think I'm the only person who knows this. That's how you have to figure out. You have to guess a show based on that.
So
Okay,
the
no, I'm kidding.
K-pop band? Is it Momo from whatever that band
it's
is?
not Sweet Momo. It's not Momo. It's the source for this one's based on a video game.
Is it
The
Bang Dream?
The tags include female protagonist,
Mhm.
Okay.
cute girls doing cute things, ensemble cast, idol. Okay. Animals, athletics. The genres are drama, slice of life, and sports.
Oh.
It's by Studio PA Works.
Yeah. I can't think of the
Came
name
out in
now.
2018. Prominently features horse girls. We're going
Yeah.
to be reviewing the
Oh.
first season of Umamusume Pretty
Yeah.
Derby.
Yeah, I think I know who's literally losing their mind right now listening to this.
Yeah. I think I know who's
Zeros.
like over
Oh.
Mike's
he-
shoulder going like, you should review this.
Yeah.
Is he an Umamusume guy? I actually have no idea. I know literally nothing about this. In fact, I've asked Google Gemini to tell me what it's about. So here's what Google Gemini will tell us what it's about. Umamusume Pretty Derby is an anime that blends the excitement of horse racing with the charm of idol culture. In this unique world, legendary racehorses are reborn as girls with horse-like features possessing incredible speed and athleticism. The story follows Special Week, a spirited and determined Umamusume who dreams of becoming the best racehorse in Japan. And Cole, earlier before the podcast, you were asking why I was laughing at something. It's because I saw all the names of the characters of this, and it was just throwing me. It was just sending me because I was just
'Cause
like,
they all have
the
horse
character's name
names?
is
Yeah.
Special Week and Gold Ship, and just it threw me. For
Is
a
there a
loop.
sea biscuit in there?
There must be. There must
There's
be.
got to be sea biscuit. Everybody knows sea biscuit.
If there isn't a sea biscuit, I'm rating it. If it weren't for the review, I would have dropped it.
I think you got to get to season. And the other thing is, I think season 3 or something comes out pretty soon. So
Okay.
that was another reason why I kind of picked this one for the.
Man, when I was in Japan, this was everywhere. This show.
It's
Yes.
huge. It's massive.
Like, you'd go into a 7-Eleven, there'd be like a cardboard pop-up for this horse racing anime. I'm like, what?
Yep.
Like, nobody talks about this show. Yeah.
But it's huge. Like, it's massive.
I will say, though, thank you for
Yeah.
nominating it, because I would never watch it. But I
know.
want to watch it, you know? It's one of
Yep.
those shows, it's like, I need a reason to watch this show.
I see. I kind of feel a little bit like you, Cole, but like kind of also the opposite. Like, I don't want to watch it, but also like if I knew, like
Jay's
if I
calling
knew
in sick
like
for
what
this
the hype was
episode.
all about,
Yeah.
then like sure,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. I feel like at its worst, it's going to. I figured when I picked this one is like, okay, it also is the Cinderella Grey is apparently coming out. It's an Umamusume spinoff is the reason what I saw. And the other thing is I just at worst, it's going to be an interesting review for us.
Yeah,
We're probably going to get murdered by people who love horse girls.
I don't want to get misconstrued. Like, I'm very interested in seeing like what all the hype is about for this show.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll
Yeah.
have to find out.
Yeah.
Tune in to that
Jay.
one.
Anyway,
But Jay,
my show.
yes.
Yeah, that's enough beating around the bush, Jay.
Yeah, not going to beat around the bush here. We've got so many things to talk about, so little time. So
Mhm.
I can't be stretching and padding this out
Mhm.
Do
too
it.
much longer.
Yeah,
Because
we
when
we
you
wouldn't
pad things
stand for
out
that.
too long, then like the listeners get bored and they inevitably
Can't
tune
stand
out.
for that.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we should probably get to my next review, which is what I'm going to be talking about right now.
Mhm.
What a bit.
Excellent.
What a bit, Cole. Could you imagine doing this bit?
I know. Yeah, it's so original. Get your own bit. Get your own material.
No, this is a funny bit.
It was funny, so I'm gonna do it too. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I see how it is. I see how it is. All right. All right.
Look, man.
Anyway,
We just got to do
Anyway.
it one more time. Comedy comes in threes.
Wow, we got
Mike, you should have done it. Jay, what are we watching? Tell me
Anyway,
what we're watching.
what are we watching? My next show is a show that's available on High Dive. So unlike our next our review that we're doing in a couple minutes, you can actually find it legally, which is cool. And
You can watch
the
Lane
director
legally on YouTube.
the director of this show has an anime coming up that I think a lot of people are really interested in, myself included. That show is Lazarus. I'm looking forward to Lazarus.
Oh, yeah.
And
okay. Me too.
the director of this, the director of Lazarus did the show that we're going to be reviewing. So, we're going to be doing a pretty cool looking show, I think, but it's going to be a little bit different because it's not one of those action shows that he did before. Instead, we're going to be looking to the world of music, specifically
I know what
jazz
it is.
music.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
yeah, I know what it is.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, our third review for this rotation is going to be Kids on the Slope.
Thank you, Jay. I've been wanting to watch this one for so dang long, and
Yeah.
I'm glad I'm finally going to watch it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I've been...
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, hey, jazz. That's jazz, baby.
Yeah.
That's yeah. You want me to play some
I think that's
jazz
what
for
they say,
you?
right? Yeah. Here. Cole's going to play some jazz for us. Oh,
That's
no, he
called
didn't. He
jazz.
didn't. Yeah.
Yeah,
this-
I mean,
this- yeah. Tell us about this show.
I mean, just for a quick synopsis, it's just like a coming of age story of kids coming together to form a jazz group, just playing jazz. It's a fun drama. Look, I don't want to.
Do you want me to Gemini a response for you too?
No, I'm not.
What
I'm not
is-
PS5 pricing this.
It's okay. We've got a show to review too, guys. It was just funny. Yeah. It's a show about jazz and people are playing jazz. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's slopes? I don't know.
Says
No.
the anime is known for its beautiful animation, soulful soundtrack, and compelling characters. It's a touching coming of age story that resonates with many viewers. Named Jay.
And possibly
I don't know. I haven't
Mike
seen it
and
yet.
Cole.
Oh, you haven't seen it yet? Well, that makes three of us.
I've seen it.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's a High Dive Crunchyroll sandwich we got there because Cole's is High Dive, mine's Crunchyroll, and Jay's is High Dive.
Oh,
Look at that. Look at that.
delicious sandwich.
Mm.
Well,
Crunchy.
let's get into this review though. Let's
Yes, we should.
properly
Yes.
Really should. Yeah.
discuss Serial Experiments Lane.
Mm-hmm.
We love Lane. We love Lane.
We love Lane.
Love Lane. We love
Mhm.
Lane. We
Yep.
love Lane.
What he said.
Mike, take it away.
Yes.
Just Monica.
So, dear listeners, you have selected this as our cyberpunk review. It's slightly cyberpunk, I would say.
It's
Light.
cyberpunkish. Yeah.
Yeah.
it's
I didn't-
cyberpunk adjacent, I'd say.
Yeah, I thought it'd be more cyberpunk because it did have the tag, but it's neither here nor there. You said you wanted us to watch it, so we watched it. We found it. It's on YouTube. You can watch it. What's it about, you ask? Well,
I hear them.
I
can hear
I
them
got
in the
that.
wired. Yeah.
I hear them in the wired. They're talking to me. It's a mind-bending anime that follows Lane Iwakura, a withdrawn middle school girl that begins to unravel the mysteries of the Wired, a global network that resembles the internet. Strange occurrences begin to unfold when Lane receives emails from a deceased classmate, leading her down the rabbit hole of unsettling discoveries. As she delves deeper into the Wired, Lane starts to question her own existence and the nature of consciousness, blurring the lines between reality and the digital world. So, this came out in 1998, and kind of one of the big things that like draws people to it is it's super debate. We'll probably talk about this in the episode, but lots of people consider it ahead of its time because it basically talks about like a lot of issues that happen nowadays on the internet. But this was in a time when I looked it up when they were writing this. There was like, I think 16 million people on the internet, and now there's like, I think over 300 million people on Twitter. So like that they really like to have such a very like primordial concept of what the internet or the wired would become is pretty crazy, that just like from looking at this. And we'll discuss that further as we get into the review proper. But what else do I need to talk about with this? I think that's a pretty good intro. This one is
I think so too, Mike.
This is a fairly spoilerific show, I would say, but don't worry, we're not going to spoil anything major without warning you first, I would say. So
I do want to just say, just to be on the safe side, if you are like super nervous about spoilers or something like that, go watch it. Go watch the show.
Go watch it.
Yeah. We're going to try and be careful, but it is, just be warned, you know, the show, there may be some stuff that gets spoiled just incidentally, because there's lots of stuff happening in this show. Lots of stuff is going on. So we're going to do our best, but I just want to give that blanket
I don't think if you get spoiled on smaller plot stuff, I don't think it's the end of the world for this one either. It's the whole show is a trip from start to finish, honestly.
It's a vibe show. Mike appreciates vibes, and this show is vibey.
Super vibey. Yeah, very artsy. And do you guys like have any like thing that this is kind of a weird one because it's such a weird show, but they're like, what do you think it's comparable to, or what would you like recommend someone who's watched these?
I think you've got
Cole's
something
got
to say.
I got one before anybody takes it from me.
There's
a lot of people think of
one.
A lot of people think of this as like the sci-fi aspect of it. Me personally, like I'm way more interested in like the philosophical self-actualization side of Lain, and like if you like the last few episodes of Evangelion, you're gonna love Lain. Evangelion would be my big recommendation. Also, just kind of the vibes, the animation style of it as well. That like late 90s anime. It's I feel like those go hand in hand, and it's the obvious one.
It's the most obvious one, and I kind of left it there for Cole because I knew he was like, I want to talk about Evangelion, and it's like it is such like a good recommendation for this one. I agree. Yeah. Jay, do you have a recommendation?
Can I go last?
Or comparison? Yeah, you can.
Jay can go last.
Jay says, "Can I put Mike on the spot?" And I'm okay with that. I'm cool with that. Cole went for one of its time. And I went for one that I think is kind of like a spiritual successor in a way. And I think that's Sunny Boy. It's it's a newer show. It came out a couple seasons ago. But it kind of has the similar like avant-garde vibe where like you're kind of like questioning everything. The visuals are really trippy. You're like, what's real? What's not? What's actually going on? What's the real deal here, man? And yeah, I just think that's a good comparison for this one. I did have one more. I'm trying to remember what it was.
Was it Madoka Magica?
It was. Thank you, Jay, with your genius little brain of yours that you remember everything. Yes, Madoka Magica was my other one. And I think that is, you might initially say, that's kind of a weird comparison, but I think it feels like a mirror to, like a Funhouse mirror version of this, maybe a little bit.
I think...
go ahead.
In the most unspoilery way possible, I'd say like the way the main characters are treated in both is very similar.
Yeah, the arc overall is kind of similar, and like I think just like the whole arc of like what's really going on, what's the reality, what's like, I feel like they have that essence to them. They have that mystery essence to them, that and like that meta kind of thing where like it's kind of like I think that those two work.
And then also they're both just psychological horrors. So
that too, yeah. And Jay, you have successfully gone last in the order, violating the true AniPro order.
Just in case you want to go,
this is the true AniPro order.
This is just in case you actually want to go last, Jay. I'll throw one more out there.
Okay.
The original Ghost in the Shell movie, I would say.
Yep.
Again, not for the sci-fi, not for the sci-fi aspect of it, but kind of that like philosophical, what are we, who are we, what makes us us kind of thing. Yeah. Now Jay can go last.
Yeah, okay. I was
Kino's
gonna
journey.
like kind of softly bring up Ghost in the Shell, but the one that like very broadly came to my mind isn't even an anime. But The Matrix was what came to my mind.
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
For sure.
vividly. Just like the whole like what's real, what's a simulation, and stuff like that. Like was very 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 similar.
Yep, for sure. And they came
So-
out like this actually predates The Matrix.
Mm-hmm.
Around the
and-
same time.
And
Around
didn't
the
the
same- like, kinda
Wachowskis
same
also
era.
kind of didn't they also like anime too? So there's
They
it's like
did.
Yeah.
feasibly possible that this could be an inspiration for The Matrix.
I think the big inspirations behind the Matrix were like Ghost in the Shell, Akira.
Yeah.
Like I think this
Mhm.
came out too close. I don't think they would
Yeah.
have been aware of it necessarily.
We're probably
It's hard
already
to say.
penning the script.
It's
Yeah.
like that idea of two people inventing something at the same time.
Yeah.
And it just happens.
Always seems to happen.
Yeah.
A bug's
'cause
life
they're
and
both
ants.
exactly. Yeah, they're both
Yeah.
very very similar. Kind of that
Mhm.
early internet kind of prescient idea behind stuff.
Yeah.
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 Mhm.
Because like the internet was like truly exploding and like Y2K was a thing that was coming up. If you don't know what Y2K is, like they used to think there was a point in time where people actually thought the world was going to end because like computers couldn't, all the times were going to turn to 00, and they're like, we don't know what's going to happen. And
Mhm.
yeah, that was an actual thing. Like people were very scared about it.
And I think like
Uh,
sorry, just to go on a quick little
Yep, go
tangent
ahead.
and then we'll go back. I think like that's also a fear for something like coming up
Yeah,
that
you
we
never
Yeah.
know.
but
Yeah, there is
Yeah.
something similar. I think Mike
Not
and I
as in-
talked about it a little bit, but
A little bit,
Uh-huh.
yeah. But I guess what better way to open up our thoughts and discussions than
Mhm.
with Cole's thought that he's written down here as his
Mhm.
patented thought on this one is
mhm.
we must discuss the iconic, all caps, opening.
Of
And Cole,
course.
lead us off. Here, Hosto.
Serial Experiments Lane has, like I said in my little blurb here, an absolutely iconic opening. Beautiful song, wonderful imagery,
Mhm.
and like there's something about it that's like so sad as well. Like
Mhm.
as the show progresses, and like even when you're done the show and you watch the LP, it's like, oh, this is like a heartbreaking
Yeah.
song. Visuals to it as well. It's
Yeah.
I think it just really well encapsulates the show, and
Yep.
it's a banger, certified
song.
banger for me.
Yeah.
And like the visuals perfectly fit it too, right?
Mhm.
And it's such like a weird choice. It fits Lane too, because it's like such a weird choice for an anime, but Lane is
Mhm.
such a weird anime too that
Yeah.
it kind of
Mhm.
like all when you put all the weird puzzle pieces together, you actually get like something
Yeah.
that makes sense, right?
To be clear, this song is it's called Duvet. It's by the band Boa, and they're an
Mhm.
English band. They're an English alternative rock band. 90s alt rock.
It's very 90s alt rock. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the what was the band? The
The
10,000
Cherry
Maniacs,
Cranberries?
Cranberries, yeah,
Yeah.
that kind of acoustic
Yeah.
rock thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not usually a fan of it, but it works really well in
Mhm.
this.
Yeah, and I mean just from like a directorial side of it, like it really adds to like the eerie thoughts and feelings that you might be having while you're watching the show. So like
Mm-hmm.
when even like after you finished it, if like you go back and watch the OP, like it kind of really fits that like I need to stare at a wall vibe.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
From both like a visual aspect, like just like kind of like stare into the abyss, and from a song aspect of like
Yeah.
Yeah.
The lyrics are
It really
just,
does.
and like, of course, we're all native English speakers, so like we
Yeah.
understand the lyrics, and they're so, just like basically like a plea for help kind of thing. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's a very powerful.
It was interesting too,
opening.
because I did see like I think it was the director. I can't remember exactly, but someone who was involved with creating this, because this is an original anime too. It wasn't based on
Mhm.
anything, which is also
Mhm.
kind of cool.
Yeah.
That basically someone asked them like, why did you pick that song? Like why specifically this unknown band's this one song that's a third song on their album, not even a single or anything. He's like, I just heard it and thought it sounded very Japanese, so like I was kind of like interested in it. And then like apparently reached out to the band and they were like, yeah, I guess we could have it on your anime. Sure. Why not?
Yeah.
And,
I saw a little interview with the lead singer from the band, and they were saying like, yeah, we didn't know like that it would blow up the way it did. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's good for them too, right? Like,
Yeah.
like you said, they're kind of like an unknown band. It's their third string song off their album. And yeah, now like
just
anime
Lane blew
fans
up.
are just,
Yeah.
big
Got
into
stuck
the
in the
song.
wired. Yeah.
Just as an aside as well, like the ED too is not quite as impressive visually, but like from a, because basically it's just a picture that zooms out with scrolling text over it.
Yeah.
But I like the imagery of it, you know, like Lane
Yeah.
is in like a fetal position in her like mechanical womb kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's very simple and effective. And then the next song comes up, or the next episode comes on the playlist. Keep watching.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just wanted to throw some love to the ED. It's a good
interesting
ED
too,
as well.
especially when you read, again, like you said, the lyrics are interesting, and the lyrics are interesting for the ED as well for this one.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
They kind of like capture that melancholy spirit of like Lane trying to figure out like what's going on. What's yeah. Like
What's
what
up?
is Lane? What Lane is, I think, is really what she's trying to figure out. Right.
Right. Yeah. And that's really what the whole show is about.
Yeah.
So Mike, I'll throw it to you because you have a little
Okay.
blurb here that you
I do
have
have a
written
little
down.
blurb here.
And that is, I'll read it to you exactly as you wrote it to me.
Okay.
It says, when you think about art, music, storytelling, and general direction. I'm sorry. He only said direction, not direction. That was me. What worked for you? What didn't? So basically, Mike, you want to know what worked from an artistic standpoint with this anime. Correct?
Yeah.
Am I inferring correct?
Yeah, and I was kind of thinking like for the impetus of this one was I thought like I really enjoyed the direction of this show. I thought the direction was kind of what really made the show stand out and like really work by having like the decision to have all the shadows in the real world have like this weird like waviness to them to kind of like highlight that the wired is taking over the real world and the shadows and stuff like that. And like there's
But
so many
Lane's
little
Lane's shadow is different though.
yeah.
So it's kind of like you get these little hints towards things later on. It's I think the strong point with this show would be the direction. Like it's a very methodical show. It's very slow paced, wonderful shot compositions, and the animation as well. I think is good, but definitely not like the strong point of the show, I would say.
I think it's good. It's just like you never were really going into this show for like insane Sakuga, but like
Yeah, it's not an action show.
Like
so.
no,
Yeah.
but I think
It's
especially
serviceable.
for the time, it does what you want to be able to tell the story that it's trying to tell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And at the time, these are all like hand drawn cell animations too, right? So you can tell like, so when you watch a lot of anime from that time, a lot of the times it does the basically panning shot on the one cell, right? Where it's just moving up and down a character or whatever.
Yeah.
And maybe the mouth is moving. And I found because of the direction between like both the art and like just the shot composition that like it was just so like interesting to look at and listen to and just take it all in. You were so captivated that you kind of like I didn't find myself getting bored, even though there's a lot of basically still shots in this.
Yeah. Again, like they used that limitation to their advantage. Like it really builds tension in scenes.
Yeah.
With those scrolling shots and stuff like that.
And I mean, it's kind of stupid easy to compare the direction to this, but like it felt a little Akiyuki Shimbo-esque. Where like
a little bit,
it was very avant-garde, whereas like most anime will like just if they're having a conversation, it's either a wide shot or like the shot reverse shot composition of discussion, whereas like this, it's like it'll have like odd camera angles or like maybe like at a Dutch tilt or something, and it's like and I felt like even the mundane stuff that was going on was made to feel a little eerie or off.
Yeah. That's an interesting point too. Like there's some shots like where somebody turns around and kind of like looks at the camera and you think like that's almost like proto Shaft, you know?
Yeah.
With like, if they had their head tilted, they would be like, oh, okay, that's like a shaft shot. So like, I made a point of noticing that. So that's
Yeah.
interesting that you brought that up too. I bet you Shinbo was like a big fan
Probably
of
inspired
this.
by this. Yeah, I would think so.
It's really funny you say that, because like I thought the exact same thing while I was watching the show. So I looked it up, and like in all the biographies I saw, none of the directors on like the director on their shows works were listed as his inspirations, and I was like, really?
Really? Well,
Like,
I mean, it's a small pool too, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
and this is a
And
pretty iconic anime.
I will say though that like, unfortunately, like I specifically was like, oh, I really like the direction of this. Like, let's go check out the director, see what else they've done.
Yeah.
And I found out, oh yeah, like they are no longer with us, so we will never get any more. But they did happen to direct Jay's favorite anime of all time, Kino's Journey. Which is,
God.
Jay, go off.
Why
King.
would you?
I mean,
why would you give him
he's a good director.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I've only seen this. I haven't watched Kino's Journey. I usually just
the
give Jay a hard
direction's
time
very
about it.
similar. Obviously, more for
modern.
that show,
Right.
but like in terms of like overall vision, I think like you can tell it's the same guy.
And again, just from like an animation standpoint as well, like this show is, it works with light really well. In addition to everything else, like a lot of shots are kind of blown out in an intentional way. Like it makes the screen like seem very fragile. Like the lines are very thin. Everybody's almost washed out with white light. And then like if you go to Lane's room later on in the show, it's all dark shadows and like what I would compare it to, Mike, do you remember watching Gundam Thunderbolt when you're in the Zaku or in the Xeon ship? And it's like nightmarishly dark. It's like, how do people live like this? And that would be
it's like somehow the floor is wet, and it's like, what is how is this possible?
Yeah.
And I think it's a directional choice too, where they were like, listen, the whole theme of this show is like, what's real, what isn't, how is this possible? Like, what's like, reality is twisted, and you got to figure out what's really going on. And like,
how did Lane build that computer?
How did she possibly fit that computer? How did her room grows 3 sizes every episode?
Yeah. And also, how quickly could Lane edit this podcast, do you think? That PC would just whip through.
Yeah, for sure. She's got
it would be edited in real time as
it
as
is interesting though.
It.
Like, I don't know if her room grows, because at the start of the show, when she goes into her room, it's just her bed and then like a little desk. So it's almost like it's set up to allow all of this computing space.
Yeah.
Or all of this space for equipment. Almost like that's kind of
almost
a
like
thing.
They thought that was going to happen. Interesting. Interesting. Being trapped in a simulation is our next point here that Jay Garridian has.
So
and frankly, I'm curious about this one, because I don't know that, like, I don't know if I'd consider this trapped in a simulation. I'm curious. I'm curious where you wanted to go with this. I really am.
I don't think it's trapped in a simulation.
Okay.
But I alluded to The Matrix as like a recommendation for this.
Yep.
And I kind of got a very similar vibe while I was watching this, because like of like them keep asking like, what's real, what's the real world, what's the wired, like what's the difference, which one am I, where am I, and stuff like that. And like it kind of brought on this sense of existential dread of a very similar idea of being in a simulation, or like of even like this cosmic horror thing of like, is life real? Are we real? And it's something that kind of permeated throughout the entire show. And I don't know if you guys got the same feeling while watching it.
I definitely got feelings of kind of that existentialism for sure. And it is an interesting thought as well, like the trapped inside of a simulation, because at times like Lane's not really sure, like the lines between the wired and the real world are blurred. So like what's real, what's fake, or what's real, what's not real. So yeah, I could see that kind of thought process of the horrors of being trapped in a simulation. On an aside, personally, if we're in a simulation, I don't care. I'm weird like that, because what difference would it make in my day-to-day life if we find out
You're
we're
still
in
in
a
the simulation. Yeah. Yeah.
That's just as an aside.
It's less the thought of like, if we're in a simulation, and more the thought of like, there's a real version of me that exists out there.
Yeah.
That like could pull the plug and everything's just gone.
Yeah.
We're just all
Or
gone.
that, and like you might not necessarily be in control of that other version of you, or like they vice versa, which is a very scary concept too, right?
Or the illusion of free will. Again, that old classic. Listen, if you're worried about like existential theming and stuff like that, this might not be the episode for you. I'm just gonna
Might not be the show for you either.
The whole point of this show is to really just pile on the questions. It makes you, and we'll talk about it a bit later. One of us has a cue for that one, but like it makes you ask a lot of questions about pretty well everything to do with the human experience, including a lot of that is pretty scary when you dive into it for sure.
Yeah, I would. I see where you're coming from. I think that kind of brings us to like the next point on our list of points here, which is mine. I'll throw it to myself. I pose and throw to you guys that this show has some of the most genuinely frightening and unsettling scenes in anime. Again, from a directional standpoint, they really you can't really do like fast scuttering at the camera with animation.
Yeah.
But there's a famous scene in Serial Experiments Lain. It's a light spoiler.
I'm curious.
There is a scene where Lane's kind of laying in her bed and she hears somebody at her door.
Oh, yeah.
And it's slowly revealed through like shot, counter shot, like very slowly, methodically about what's at her door. And like when it cuts back to what's there, it's like you're taken aback because it's like, I was not expecting that to be there.
Yeah.
And then it's gone. And then it's gone. So now not only are you startled by what you've just seen, you don't know what it is. You never really find out what it is. It's set up in a weird way. Like they kind of talk about this little boy that shows up in people's rooms wearing a striped sweater.
Yeah.
Just as an aside, like kind of a background
It's
thing.
like in passing. If you're not paying, like with this anime, if you're not paying full attention, you'll miss stuff for sure.
So like that's a genuinely frightening scene to me.
Yes, there's lots.
And then
I could think
like
of a few
another
for sure.
unsettling one is kind of like when Lane's sister is having kind of a mental breakdown.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's terrifying and nothing like if I ever made a horror movie, that's how I would want to do it. I don't want like a monster or anything like that. I want the,
It's psychological.
slowly
psychological
creeping
horror,
a door open and like there's nothing there, but like there's something there. You know that there's something there. It's this great psychological horror. And like were you guys freaked out by this show as much as I was?
I wasn't scared, I wouldn't say at any points. I would consider this more of a thriller, I think. It's like it does a good job through the direction and like the basically just like the nature of the show and like how you're constantly like trying to figure stuff out. You're on the edge of your seat and you can never really get comfortable with what you're looking at. And you kind of just your brain's always working, and it does a good job of, like you said, with the whole Lane hears something and then you know that's got to be in her room because you hear it's in the water and it's like, wait, that doesn't make there shouldn't be anyone in this room. And then like just they set it up perfectly. Like it does a good job of keeping you on edge, but I wouldn't say necessarily horrified is maybe the way I would put it.
I wouldn't
Jade,
say
how do you
horrified.
feel?
It's you're creeped
I'd
out.
say more unsettled.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's very
yeah.
unsettling. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which kind of like to bring it back to like the real world, like the allegories for like mental health issues in this are great. Like, is this actually happening or is Lane just hallucinating? Which is, of course, another thing that is real and is scary, right?
Yeah.
Maybe she's having like a night terror as well, or like a sleep paralysis or something like that. Like, it really gets you down that rabbit hole of like what's going on and maybe something like this I could see something like this happening in my in my brain happening.
Yeah,
right?
if like the wrong neurons fire or the chemical imbalance goes just wrong, it's like this is what could happen. Like you could see this happening. Yeah. And that's part of like the unsettling nature of it, right? Is like you kind of it makes you ask these questions and it makes you think about this stuff that like you wouldn't. It doesn't make you feel good inside thinking about all that, right? Like
yeah, exactly. I have another point coming up, but actually I think I want to hold off on it because it kind of gets into a little bit of spoiler territory. So I'd like to hold off maybe
we'll do it right at the end. Yeah.
Right at the end. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So we can just kind of put that one on the back burner. And the next question then I believe is Jay's, which is, of course, the question everybody asks when watching Serial Experiments Lain. Is the message of The Wired still relevant today? Jay?
Yeah.
Is it? Tell me.
Take it away.
I need to know.
I mean, I think it's
I think maybe
I think I'd be a
Jay.
broken record if I said the obvious that like this show has a timeless message.
Is prescient in a weird way. It's funny, like you watch the show and you think like, man, how far we've come with the internet.
Yeah.
And no, we haven't. Ultimately, we're doing the same thing that we were doing then, just bigger and faster.
Yeah, but at the time when this came out, it was like, oh, this is what like we could see happening, and then we did it. We did it.
It's so weird because like the show's talking about like a prophecy, and it like this almost feels prophetic.
Yeah, it's really
the
weird.
show itself,
And I think Jay, maybe we should define like because maybe someone's listening to this, they haven't watched the show or they don't know what like the Wired is basically their version of the internet, and like the message of I'd say the quote unquote message of the Wired is that like basically it like people get obsessed with it and like your brain you eventually like you get sucked deeper and deeper into the internet, and then eventually you like are fully addicted to it, and like you're living on the web more than you are in real life. It's kind of would you say that's kind of like if someone's talking about the Wired, that's what they're talking about?
I'd say there's that. And yeah, you're just like you're basically a husk in reality, whereas your digital presence is who you are.
Yeah,
kind of thing.
But it's not even just the Wired. These kids have cell phones that vibrate in their pockets. And they just communicate. Like, how did they know that that's what we would do? I know cell phones were around in the late 90s, but not like that. People weren't texting like that.
Well, like that's what I mean by prophetic, right? Like, that wasn't a thing back then.
Yeah, it's insane.
And like, okay, I think that's a bit spoilers, but like at the end of the show, just like that message of like I'll always be here.
Yeah. I mean, the show gets a bit like woo-woo a little bit as the show goes on. But I think those like initial kind of thoughts of like the internet becoming such a ubiquitous part of life nowadays.
Yeah. And like the idea like someone's always watching, like the internet's always there, and like internet celebrities become like way like really popular really fast and like become like a craze. Like it's all like kind of bizarre to see from something this old to get it that right. Yeah. I
mean, it's like Jay kind of said, it's a broken record. Everybody who talks about Serial Experiments Lain talks about this, but it genuinely is insane. It's crazy.
It's fascinating.
What's fascinating to me is not necessarily that the show, like of course the show is prophetic, but like that people had the foresight to see that this is how it would go. To be that in touch with the human condition, to say, listen, we're all going to have access to this crazy thing that keeps us connected at all times, and we're going to abuse it, and this is how we're going to abuse it. Maybe we're not as complicated as sometimes we think we are. Maybe we're all just animals.
We're attuned to the seventh resonance of the earth or whatever the heck.
Whatever they said.
Whatever the heck that was.
I think in a meta way, that is one of the biggest horrors of this show.
Yeah, is that it's kind of real.
It's a free will thing, right?
Yeah.
It's like, do we really have free will, or are we all just kind of reacting to things? around us.
Yeah. Is that
whoa.
like, would you say, yeah, again, it's a heavy show. It's deep. And like, I guess I've kind of, we've sort of been talking about the next point through this, because I kind of added it on to Jay's anyway. So, and like, that's like, what issues do you think that the creators of this show like wanted us to talk about or like think about while we were watching it? And like, do you think those are still relevant today? And I feel like we've sort of said yes to that.
Yeah.
Right?
I think there's this line that Lane's dad says to her, which is interesting that he says it to her, where he says like, don't forget, Lane, like this is just a means of communication.
Yeah.
And then Lane turns around and says like, no, like this is like the real world as well. Like,
yeah.
And then she talks about how she's going to like combine the two, which
then, okay.
Then it gets woo-woo.
Like you said, woo-woo. But like, you could say that line to someone who's like, okay, you live tweet all day long. Just go out and touch grass. You can picture like someone's dad saying that to them about that. And it's like,
and then the kid turning around and saying like, why should I go out and touch grass?
No, this is
like,
my real life. Yeah.
This is real life. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's,
that's crazy. It's so crazy. Yeah.
Like, I don't know I don't know if they're trying to say one's right or wrong. Like SAO kind of has the same message, right? Like your online friends are your real friends as well. Didn't think SAO would come up in a serial experiments.
No,
Lane
I did not. I will say SAO did not handle it as tactfully or as
well as this.
I think SAO also like, while it's easy to pick up on that message, it doesn't do.
They say it in different ways. I think.
It doesn't do enough to like deliver it in the most eloquent way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And
I think that what Serial Experiments Lane, what it does better than anything, like the direction is part of this, I guess. It's just, it makes you look at it puts these things in front of you, and it basically makes you say, what do you think happened? It just says, what do you think just happened? Basically is what it does all the time. Yeah. And you're just constantly like it makes you wonder, like, if is a god still a god if no one believes in them? Stuff like that, right? Yeah. Like,
if a tree falls in this forest, does it make a sound?
Like that's right? Crazy stuff to think about, right? And then while you're watching all these psychological psychedelic like spirals and stuff on the screen, or like it's a crazy show for sure.
It's interesting. Like, it's a show that is almost made to, like, after you finish watching, you go to like an online forum to discuss with other people.
Mm-hmm. Yes, which
is hilarious that it's a show about internet culture and having that online personality.
Yes.
That is, and I'm not saying they made it for that, but it's just you watch a crazy show like this, you go online to discuss with your friends.
Yeah. And like to your credit, Cole, it's funny because like I literally after every episode I went and read, like, Reddit will do these rewatch threads where people will like comment their thoughts on it. And there's just one guy, Ondorel, on the rewatches from 9 years ago. He was going through episode by episode and like posting like these like massive explanations and just like discussions on things, and it was just like so fascinating to read. Like, you'd watch the episode and then you'd go read that and you're like, oh dang, I didn't even notice that. That's crazy.
But like you went online to find that.
I know. I am what it's talking about. Yeah.
And I think this kind of leads into a point that that was made in here. And does the show require multiple viewings to fully enjoy?
Well, that's an interesting one. When you ask this question, I think it's interesting because this is my second viewing of it. I think it's your guys' first.
It's my first.
So I'll let you guys lead this off as kind of the first viewers. Do you think you need another viewing? I guess would be my question.
I feel like I'd pick up on other things that I didn't pick up on before, because like it's kind of like a more cerebral other side to like the airplane thing, where like you're too busy thinking about one thing that you miss something else that comes up. You know, so like I feel like if I were to rewatch it again, I would like be like, okay, I saw that last time, I thought about that last time, oh, here's another thing that came up that I didn't like pay too as much attention to.
Yeah, you missed it or whatever.
It's kind of like the classic, like, you know, that video where like there's the people playing passing a basketball around and they're like, did you notice the gorilla?
Yeah.
It's kind of like that, because you're like looking at all, you're trying to like absorb all this stuff, and you just don't, you just can't possibly take it all in.
Yeah. Or what color was the girl's eyes?
Yeah.
From a more gooner thing.
Yeah.
You know, like
what color
you
was the
get that
sky?
Yeah. It's
exactly.
Yeah, you can't pay attention to everything at once. Yeah, that's I can see that. Yeah. Mike, do you agree with Jay's assessment?
So I'm gonna nitpick here because Jay, you're a man who loves technicalities. And you said, does this show require multiple viewings to fully enjoy? And I feel like I fully enjoyed it through my first viewing. So I don't know if it requires multiple, but I think a second viewing and maybe even more after that would definitely enhance it.
But then did you fully enjoy it?
Did I fully enjoy it? So I don't know. I feel
it's
like
tough to answer things. There's no way that you would know, right?
Yeah, right.
It's Schrodinger's enjoyment.
Yeah, and like I feel like I will watch this again. I don't know when, but like I feel like I should, because I feel like I'll see quite a bit more. The Reddit threads did help a lot though with explaining stuff.
I feel like that you had a leg up with that. Yeah.
Yeah, I did. It's like basically like the cheat code. It's like having a walkthrough for this basically.
Yeah.
But yeah, I am curious though, as the sole rewatcher, Cole, this most sophisticated gentleman. With your refined palate on this one, what did you think as a rewatcher?
I remember enjoying it the first time I watched it. But I think like doing a rewatch, to Jay's point, you kind of get certain things through your first watch, and then through your second watch, you kind of have more time to ruminate on everything.
Okay.
Like I've kind of alluded, like I feel like this is, I didn't get it the first time I watched it, but this time, like, I feel like it's much more an allegory for mental health than a lot of other things.
Okay.
And I feel like I needed that second watch to kind of say like, oh, maybe it is like she's having a psychological episode, or maybe Lane does have schizophrenia or something like that, and she's hallucinating. Then the show gets woo, and then you kind of stop thinking that, but
you still could make the argument.
It still has those thematic elements to it, regardless. And I feel like, to Mike's point, I don't think you need it to fully enjoy it, but I feel like you get more out of it when you rewatch it. So did you fully enjoy it? It's a yes and no question, I think.
And I think that this show is that by design, because it doesn't like really outright tell you anything. Right?
No.
It leaves you to think about everything that happened and piece everything together. And everyone will probably piece things together differently.
Yeah. Yeah. Just go on AniList and look at like, or just anywhere, and just type in Lane theories, and like everyone comes up with, I mean, there's like the most common ones for sure, like the ones that are like kind of more obvious, I would say, but you could really make an argument for probably like 50 different things in this show that like people would say, I don't have an argument against that. That could be what's happening.
It's kind of like those 3-in-1 Lego sets where like you can build you can build
really,
them in like multiple different ways.
Yeah. I will say a big thing we're kind of blessed with nowadays is the internet and getting other people's perspectives on it as well. Like there were things that I didn't notice until I kind of watched some videos about other people pointing out certain scenes that maybe I wouldn't have picked up on, that are a little bit too subtle sometimes.
Yeah, for sure. Like I didn't, the thing that happens where the one character's mind gets erased basically. I fully didn't understand what that, I had to look up to be like, okay, what actually happened there? Cause it's so like art house avant-garde, like it's, you have to like basically like see through the matrix to figure out exactly what's going on.
You think you're following a character, but you're actually only following their mind, and then their mind gets erased. It's
very weird.
It's
a wild show. So I guess we've kind of come up to my last point here that I have is how do you guys feel about like media like this that's not necessarily easy to understand, and it doesn't hold your hand, and like it's like totally fine with just leaving things up to the viewer's interpretation? Do you guys think that's good, bad? How do you feel?
I love them. I I live for stuff like this. Like this
Me
is
I felt like
Me
you were
too.
gonna say that.
yeah, it's like a big steak with lots of meat. It's like a big roast with a bone in it. A big ham with a bone in it. Lots of
And-
meat. You're
But
chewing
like
the
a show
meat.
like this, it's like when you go to the buffet and there's like a big roast there,
Mm.
and you go get
Tell
a
me more
slice
about
of
the
it.
roast.
You get the slice of the roast, right?
Yeah.
And you get back to your table,
how's
you
it
eat,
cooked?
you eat it. It's totally, you're satisfied. You just had that delicious piece of prime rib, right?
Yeah.
But then
medium rare.
a medium rare, yeah, nice
Yeah.
and juicy. A
Got
little bit of
gravy on
gravy,
it?
beef,
Yeah.
little,
Oh yeah.
yeah, real good.
That
But
was
then you're like, I could have another.
Mm.
I could have another, and you go up,
Yeah.
have another piece, and you didn't notice quite. You didn't notice. Oh, there's mustard on the outside of that. Like there's mustard
Yeah.
seed on there. There's more
Yeah.
There's more that I didn't notice. Like
Yeah.
that's. I
Yeah.
like that. I like that you can kind of. It's like an onion. There's layers. This is like an onion anime.
I think it's also just the age-old saying, "Less is more." Right?
Yeah.
Like,
show me, don't tell me, kind of thing. Right?
Yeah,
Like
This show
you
does
get
that.
you get
it does both. Honestly, this
you
show.
get fragments.
Yeah.
Like
Mhm.
someone tells you like, and you get an essay in like bits and pieces, right? And some paragraphs are like removed from the essay,
Mhm.
and you have to figure out like what their point is in the essay without with those pieces missing and just the context that you've gotten from.
Yeah. But it's weird because it both simultaneously like will not tell you a lot of stuff.
Mhm.
And then it will explicitly through the course of like half an episode explain to you exactly what's going on with why the worlds merge through like
that
conspiracy
was kind of
videos
the one
and stuff.
thing. That was kind of the one thing that took me out of the show was like it kept beating me over the head with like this one thing of like they're merging. I get it. They're merging. You don't need to keep telling me.
You don't have to keep telling me.
Yeah.
Mike, I love that episode where they kept diving into conspiracy stuff.
I literally wrote in my notes, I was like, how much did Cole enjoy the alien conspiracy episode or like where it was talking, just that whole, I think it was episode 9. It was
The
talking about.
documentary one?
when it
Yeah.
cuts into like the documentary talking about Roswell, is like, man, am I
Yes.
watching like a UFO documentary?
Cole's like, did I accidentally
It's the same
flip
like
off
timbre.
Lane? Yeah.
Whoever did the read for those documentary segments,
Mhm.
hats off to you.
I
That
know,
was
it's fantastic.
awesome.
It was
I saw a comment on the YouTube video. I think we watched the same YouTube video, Cole,
Mm.
for that episode. And someone was like, this is the perfect episode to watch when your parents come in or when someone else comes in because they're just going to think you're studying.
yeah. Like that whole thing with like the Earth's residents, I looked it up. It's like a real like there's actually like
Hertz,
it's funny because like there's enough like reality to the theories and the craziness of the show. Like everything we've talked about so far, there's enough reality to it that
Mhm.
it seems conceivable. You're like, that's actually kind of crazy, but like maybe I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is the final topic. So what I would say is I'm going to give a spoiler warning here because we're going to kind
Are
of
we gonna get
dive
the drop?
into Lane. We don't need that. You know what? Do you want me to play the drop? Do you want me to play the spoilers drop?
It's up to
You can
you.
play it. He's already looking for it.
Yeah.
Basically, you just skip ahead. There'll be
Just-
a timestamp in the thing. You'll know.
Yeah, just skip to our final thoughts. This
Yeah,
is
our
the final
final thoughts
thought
timestamp.
that we're going to have before the final,
final
thoughts.
Final thoughts.
Be good if it played here.
Anyway, there's spoilers. There we go.
It's time for spoilers.
I think we should talk about this though, because it is kind of like probably the most interesting discussion, other than the
Mhm.
Wired stuff. Is
Yeah.
like, Cole, you can say your point now.
Yeah. So again, final warning.
Yeah.
We're going to discuss like what Lane is.
Yeah.
Like what is Lane? Lane on the surface, very like socially awkward teenager. Mob vibes I get from her.
Yeah.
But there is a lot more to Lane than meets the eye. You could argue there's 3 lanes in this show. There's Meek Lane, who's kind of our lead. And then there's what was the term you used, Mike, for
There's Zesty Lane. is what I
Zesty
call
Lane.
her, where she's like the Lane who's like in the Wired, and people are always like, you're not the Lane I know. The
Oh.
Lane I know came in here and chewed everyone out.
Well, that's not the lane in the Wired. That's kind of the lane that also cohabitates the body with Lane.
I think they all do though.
No, because then there is the
Oh,
lane in the
there's
Wired
the-
who's like the
Yeah.
ego Lane, who's just
Yeah.
like mischievous, and like she starts spreading rumors out around Alice. By the way, Alice in Wonderland. You could argue Alice is almost the main character of this as well, but of course we follow Lane. So there's 3 lanes. Midway through the show, though, like there is a point where 2 of the lanes kind of fuse. Their personalities become more intertwined.
They kind of flip back and forth more often.
Yeah. And more obviously, like there's a scene where somebody asks, like, are you sure your parents are actually your parents? Yada, yada, yada. And Lane's breaking down, and then she like kind of flips to the other lane to kind of protect that meek lane. It's interesting.
Yeah.
That's kind of the mental health aspect of it. Like people have those dual personalities to kind of protect themselves from trauma. So it's kind of that real world aspect of it again.
But going back to like what is Lane, I personally like. So you sound like you come down more on like you think Lane is just like a mentally unwell person. I really like the explanation that I think the anime leans into, where she's like basically like a being that was born from the internet, basically. I really like that explanation, and it even like the episodes always start with like a staticky TV screen, and then it flickers to Lane's face, and she's watching you at the start and end of every episode. It's kind of like that to me feels better, I guess. More
from a narrative standpoint, yes.
Yeah.
Lane is some kind of she's described as software, which kind of simplifies it. I mean, from like a meta standpoint, Lane kind of has those attributes of somebody who has mental illness of some type. But yeah, in the story itself, it's pretty obvious that Lane is more than human.
Yeah,
she's more than meets the eye. What if she's a transformer?
What if she's a transformer? I don't think we can pass that up.
She's probably a new type, actually.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, maybe. What my theory, my personal theory with Lane is, remember there's that episode where they talk about there's that experiment where they're kind of absorbing all of those kids' psychic powers into that machine. What if Lane is born from that? So Lane is kind of the amalgamation of all of these like the weak psychic powers of all these kids kind of being concentrated into one machine. She's Akira. And then her consciousness kind of escapes into the Wired, and then she becomes the god of the Wired.
Yeah.
That is kind of what they say about her, actually, because they basically say like Lane was created from a bunch of people's beliefs in the Wired that like all concentrated into one thing, right? And then that scientist guy basically like made her into a solid unit, I guess. So I think made her kind of essentially, I think that is probably what they intended. Yeah.
Yeah. It's they kind of talk about Lane as being kind of like this thing that just exists within the Wired with no starting point and no end point, but that's kind of like they go into this point of explaining this experiment, and kind of from the Chekhov's gun standpoint, it's like there's got to be a reason behind that. So I feel maybe I'm overreading it, but like otherwise, what was the point of telling us about this experiment?
Yeah,
I think that I honestly like where it actually explained things in this show. I felt like when it was explaining like, oh, the 7th hertz and all the 7th harmony or whatever and all that crap, I was kind of like, I don't know if we need this. I felt like it was just like him trying to, like, people were saying we need to explain something in this eventually, and then it just that's basically what happened.
I felt like it was well done. Like like it didn't feel like they were over explaining. Like there was still enough ambiguity that I didn't feel lectured at.
And it was done creatively too. Like even the episode Jay said he wasn't a huge fan of, where it was like the conspiracy documentary.
Yeah.
They did it interestingly enough.
Hold on. I don't want to, it wasn't the whole episode that I didn't like. It was just like that one part where it was like just kind of beating you over the head with the two things are becoming one.
It did it in a creative way, I think.
Like switching the whole tone of it to a documentary from like a 1990s middle school where they roll in the cart and then all of a sudden you have this pop in the VHS, I think you got to give it its kudos for even when it was doing
like some exposition is necessary, and even
For
when
sure.
it was doing its
Yeah.
exposition, it was doing it in a interesting way. I
Yeah.
would say.
Do we have any final thoughts on what Lane is before we move into our final thoughts?
I love Lane. We love
I love
Lane.
Lane. We love Lane. We love Lane.
Beep beep beep.
Just
Yeah.
Monica. Just Monica. Just
Oh yeah,
Monica.
that's another recommendation. Go play Doki Doki Literature Club.
Hey, yeah,
like-
no,
if you like
that was
this.
just as an aside too. I watched
Spoilers
a
are
video
over
about,
now. Spoilers are over now.
Spoilers
by the
are
way.
over.
Yeah.
I watched a video about the video game because this is
Yeah.
Serial Experiments Lain is technically like a multimedia release.
Mhm.
Yeah.
There was a PlayStation 1 video game that was released, which is kind of like a light or a visual novel, not really. Completely different story, which I found
Mhm.
interesting. But they said like the only thing that I would compare Serial Experiments Lane's game to would be like Doki Doki Literature Club. It's like, okay,
Yeah, it's a-
interesting.
And
Yeah.
from what I understand, like the point of it being multimedia was to like connect people on from multiple different
Mhm.
avenues, right?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
good luck finding the game. I think it's still for sale, but it's like $500 for PlayStation 1, and it's all in Japanese. Nobody's ever translated it.
Well,
I think you
Cole,
can play
I
it
had-
online.
I'm sure there's a.
I was
I think
just
you
going to
can
tell
play it
you, if
online.
you type into your browser right now, lanegame.net, you can play the game
You can
on
play
your
it,
browser.
yes. I'm scared, though. I'm scared to play it
Yeah.
because Lane's watching, and we love Lane.
We love Lane. We love Lane.
Yeah.
Future Mike, if you're cool and being a little mischievous, you're gonna put in like a very very not opaque lane image just over us.
Just very
Slowly
quick.
covering
Okay.
us. Yeah, very
Yeah.
quickly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like 3 frames. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kind of like in Fight Club when how he splices in the penises. Yeah.
Yeah.
You guys
Yeah,
know
just
the
like
reference.
that.
Subliminally.
Just like that.
Yeah.
Well, final
Anyway.
thoughts.
Yeah. Cole, you
now
go
we're-
first.
It's my turn first.
Yeah.
Final thoughts. Serial Experiments Lain is a classic. It is. It's difficult to say it's mandatory watching because, like, I don't feel like everybody would like it, but I feel like it's seminal. I would say, like, it is a touchstone in anime otaku culture, if
Mm-hmm.
you want to say that. I get a lot out of this. I feel like that this show is worth rewatching. It does horror elements in a way that anime can only do, and it does it well. Like anime can't do jump scares and stuff like that. It's got to be slow with its horror elements, and this is a masterclass in that, I think. From a character standpoint as well, I think the characters are all very interesting. And it's kind of explained later on why some characters are more distant than others. And maybe you don't like certain characters, but you kind of get more of a feel for them as the show goes on. As far as a rating goes on this one, certified for me. I think this is as close to a masterpiece as you can get in this genre for me. So that's what I would say. Certified. Jay, how do you feel on this one?
I think overall, it's only right to say I like the show.
I liked it.
I mean, a show that makes you think is obviously a good show.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's
But-
what you think is this show sucked.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah. So I was just
But-
being a dick.
He's got you. He's got you there.
But like what Cole said, I don't think that this show's for everyone, and I think that like especially at the beginning, the pacing is very slow that it might be hard to like get into. But if you do brave it and like just stick with it, you're going to have a good time. It's a very, very well directed show. And just has some really cool imagery and really cool ideas and just prophetic messages in it that completely blew me away. with how in tune with the human condition these the person who created this had. I will say, there were like points in the show where like text appeared on screen, and maybe this was just the version I watched. But like it didn't get subbed, and I was annoyed because I was like, I feel like I'm missing a lot of important stuff. And I wish that every version of this show had like sub translations so I could read it.
So
but like
I am curious. I'm just going to quickly ask here. You guys watched the YouTube one. I watched the Blu-ray version. Are you talking about where it would be like letters would appear and it was like a black screen with like wavy letters? Did they not
Any
sub
text.
that part?
Any text.
Yeah.
It didn't.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
But
you
I think
definitely
that's
missed
the
out on quite a
version.
bit.
I think that's
Yeah.
the version that we watched, so I can't really
Yeah.
hold.
Yeah.
No, I can't hold.
Blu-ray
But
does
like
sub
that too.
again, it is my
Yeah.
viewing experience, right?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like I think if you like psychological horrors and are able to brave through, or not even brave through, but like able to stick through the very slow beginning, you're gonna have a good time. That said, for the average person, I'd say I'd consider it because I don't think that this show is for everybody, but for the people that it is for, it's definitely a good time.
Mhm.
Okay. That leaves me, the one who nominated this for our listener's choice, and the nominator goes last. And frankly, I'll steal Cole's line that he always says: "Is you guys have said it all. Honestly, like you guys have hit it. I think
It's awesome going last. Yeah.
I know, it's great. It is a seminal work. It is definitely. It should be considered by every single person who considers themselves an anime fan. You should try to find a way to watch this if you think you're up for it. I do think that there's a lot of content in here because frankly, like back in when this came out, a lot of the stuff that's in this was just kind of considered dark and edgy. Whereas nowadays I'd think it'd be considered more like this is probably needs like a content warning at the beginning for a lot of people. But for me, I thoroughly loved this show. Actually, I thought, even though I'm normally someone who is bored by these like very heady, like I do like psychological stuff, but I find I generally with this stuff like Evangelion and Ghost in the Shell, I get bored when it's just a lot of like pondering, really. And I felt like the tone and the art style and the direction of this show really brought it into the stratosphere for me, where I thought like I was basically on my edge of my seat for this entire watch. The entire time I basically was like thinking, trying to figure out what's going on, trying to pay attention, trying to absorb as much details as I can. Because I was just like, this is fascinating what's going on here. And they get, like you guys said, they get props for predicting a lot of stuff. And some of it they didn't, maybe, I don't know how accurate. The predictions are accurate, but I think that maybe they're not exact. I think that maybe it just, they happen to get a bunch of stuff right. And people overlook the stuff they didn't quite get right. But what they did get right is enough that it is, frankly, it's an awesome watch, and it's something that everyone should watch. And I think it is a certified good show, certified AniPro certified show is what I'd say.
Certified good.
Certified good. Mike certified. Big thumbs up. Check it out. Check it out. Yeah.
And let us know what you think of Serial Experiments Lain. How would you rate it? Come to our Discord because I feel like this one needs to be discussed properly.
Yeah.
And
It's a great show to discuss with people.
We might not get that discussion in the YouTube comments as much as...
Or maybe we will.
Or maybe we will.
Leave
But
your
come to our
thoughts.
Discord because we definitely will there. We've got reviews coming up, of course. We've got a manga review coming up. That's going to be 20th Century Boys, followed by Tamako Market. Will be our next anime review. Love Bullet is our manga review after that. And then Umamusume Pretty Derby is our next anime review. And then Kids on the Slope is our anime review after that. We are working on figuring out how we're going to do our listener's choice. I think we're almost to it. So that'll be a little bit different. So stay tuned for that one.
Should find out next week, but or by next week.
Yeah.
You'll find out in our Discord for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm sorry. I I just watched Serial Experiments Lane, and my brain isn't working very well. Anyway, thank you so much for listening to another episode of AniPro. If you liked it, please please leave a like, subscribe, leave a review, tell a friend all about us. It really helps out the show. If you really liked us, why don't you consider supporting us on Patreon, like these lovely people: Mr. Family Guy 36, Elijah Wood, Brain Dead B Dog, Peach Frama, Kratos, Just Juzz, Mogmog, Uncle of Light, and Super Mexi. By supporting us on Patreon, you get access to all sorts of perks, and it really helps out the show. We're also on social media at AniProPod, and please join our Discord community, like I said, to keep up with us and other listeners. Talk to us about Lane, about other things. I don't know. Links to everything is in the description or at our website, AniProPod.com. Mike.
Yes, Cole.
Why don't you lead us in a round of bye-byes this time?
We love Lane.
We love Lane.
We love Lane. Bye-bye.
Just Monica.
We love Lane.
We love Lane.
We love Lane.
Just
We love
Monica.
Lane. Bye-bye.
No,
Bye-bye.
I'm not talking
Bye-bye.
about Monica.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.